ये सर फुल स्क्रीन में नहीं आया। मैं अनम्यूट तो कर लिया हूं, लेकिन वो फुल स्क्रीन नहीं आया है। अभी आवाज नहीं आ रही? अब देखिए, अब आएगी क्या?
आ रही है सर आवाज।
अच्छा, थैंक यू, थैंक यू। Good afternoon, everyone. So once again we gathered and joined virtually.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Now I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So once again, I heartily welcome all the participants and the resource persons, Dr. Shalini Jhanji, Madam Plant Physiologist, Department of Floriculture and Landscaping, Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana, Punjab, and my senior colleague, Dr. Ajay Kumar Singh Ji, Head of the Department of Floriculture Landscape Architecture. We have 4 lectures under this session. Post-harvest physiology of commercial flowers, and post-harvest handling of loose flowers, and post-harvest handling of cut flowers and cut greens, and the private sectors, this transportation, marketing. So the first speaker is Dr. Shalini Jhanji, as I told you. And Madam Shalini Jhanji is joined as assistant professor of botany in the Department of Botany, and is presently working as a plant physiologist in the Department of Floriculture and Landscaping, PU Ludhiana, since 2014. Madam did her PhD and MSc in plant physiology from Punjab Agricultural University, Ludhiana. She has worked on nutrient efficiency of different crops, and presently her field of specialization is pre and post-harvest physiology of floricultural crops. She has developed 7 post-harvest technologies and 1 production technology pertaining to different floral crops. She is also associated with the physiological evaluation during development of 14 new varieties of different flower crops, like Gladiolus, Marigold, Sweet Pea, Antirenum, and Annual Chrysanthemum. She has published 45 such papers in reputed international and national journals, 3 review articles, 3 practical manuals, 7 extension articles, and book chapters. She is involved in teaching of undergraduate and postgraduate courses of botany and floriculture. Madam has guided 8 MSc students and guiding 2 MSc and 3 PhD students presently. She delivered radio talks and more than 50 extension lectures related to nutrient and water efficiency and post-harvest handling of floricultural crops in different training programs and workshops. So friends, as we know, the post-harvest physiology of flowers is very important, as we know the very complex behavior of this nature of the flower, because sepals, petals, and erinaceum, gynoecium, the complex morphological units makes this flower. So the physiology is very different if you compare with other plant parts. So that's why it is very much needed to how to to get know this physiology. So that's why we invited Madam. So first of all, at the outset, I heartily welcome Dr. Shalini Jhanji, Madam, for accepting our request to be a key resource person and joining this webinar. So on behalf of the entire organizing committee and university, I heartily welcome you, Madam. And I request you to present your this presentation before this audience virtually and experience, so that our audience will get enlightened about your experience. And because this is very much needed to know the for floriculturist about the physiology of the flowers. So at what time, how to handle the proper physiology. So once again, I welcome you, Madam. Thank you so much for joining, and I request you to share your presentation and start your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So first of all, good afternoon to all the dignitaries present, fellow colleagues, participants, students, ladies and gentlemen. On the onset, I just want to thank the organizing committee to give me the opportunity to share my knowledge pertaining to this topic assigned to me, that is the post-harvest physiology of commercial flowers, on this national forum, which is post-harvest management and value addition of ornamentals. And at the same time, I just want to congratulate also the organizing committee to have such workshop, which is the need of hour. Sir, I am not able to share the screen. Please enable me, sir. Dr. Tomar, screen sharing has been disabled. Please enable that. So is the screen?
Madam, is it visible screen?
Okay, sir. So the topic assigned to me is the post-harvest physiology of the commercial flowers. So now these flowers, they have become an integral part of human life. It was the time when these were just flowers, they were restricted to our commercial as well as just the religious and the social ceremonies. But with the increasing socio-economic standards, their demand has been increased. Now flowers, they are being utilized in our day-to-day activities. So due to these, their increased standards, the demand of flower has been increased. And one favorable aspect is that these flowers, they are having high commercial value. Now, as we all know that today's era is of diversification, and in diversification, the potent role is being placed by horticultural crops, that is floriculture, fruits and vegetables. So, and among these horticultural crops, the flowers are having high commercial value. So these can be focused. But the prime concern or the reason of our worry is that they are very highly perishable. Highly perishable means that once we harvest them, or even when they are on the plant itself, they show perishability, that is, they lose their acceptability. So this highly perishable nature of flower is the major cause of their post-harvest losses, or we can say that it offers a major setback to floricultural industry among the other agricultural industrial fields. So the target, or we can say the objective of our discussion today, or what we want to have knowledge about after this lecture is that we should have a basic understanding of all the physiological attributes which result in the post-harvest deterioration of flowers. That what are the underlying mechanisms, underlying physiological processes which are hastening this post-harvest deterioration. And once we are able to understand the basic physiology, we will be able to have appropriate interventions for amelioration of these post-harvest losses. So these are our two main objectives of today's talk. Now, first is, what is post-harvest physiology? Now, when I am just saying that post-harvest physiology, this means that all the physiological aspects which are going in flower when it is being detached from the parent plant. But it is not as simple as it is visible to us that we are saying that physiological aspects. It is having cascades of mechanisms which are intervening for these physiological aspects. like what is the morphological characteristics, what are their anatomical features, what is their cytochemistry, what is their molecular engineering present in them, molecular cascades are there. So different fields, like we can say that anatomy, morphological characteristics, how they respond to the environment, all these form a cascade which will ultimately determine their physiology. So another one mislead which is pertaining to this post-harvest physiology is that when we are using the term post-harvest, this means after harvest. So we think that we are confined to just harvesting to marketing. Once the flower has been harvested, till it is marketing, that should come under the post-harvest management. But it is not the case. It is from the time it is being cultivated, it is being planted, or it is being sown in the field till it is marketed, or we can say from the field to the consumer plate, that is post-harvest physiology. Just a simple example that what is the final performance of a student in exam is not determined by how he performs in the last 2 days of the exam, but it is based how he studied during the entire course. What is his basic IQ? What is his basic intelligence? What his teacher has taught to them? What was his daily practice? All these things will affect the overall performance. Similar is the case with the post-harvest performance of the flower also. It is not that when it is harvested, how we keep it, how we manage it, but it is how it has grown in the field. So all these things are ultimately going to affect its post-harvest management or post-harvest life. So just a series that what happens when a flower is harvested. So I'm just focusing here on the flower. So when the flower is harvested, it is a living tissue and we have detached it from the parent plant. We have disrupted the supply of water and nutrient from it. But it is living, so it will continue its metabolic activities like respiration will continue, other activities will also be there. So for these metabolic activities, it will be dependent on the endogenous sources of carbon and water. Now, no new carbon, no new water is being provided to it. So these metabolic activities will continue, the reserves will be utilized, and the time will reach when the water and these resources will be lost. So now comes the case that once they are lost, so the plant will be, or we can say that the flower will lose its viability. So why there is need? Now when we have harvested the flower, what is happening in it? Carbohydrates are being depleted, its temperature is being increased, respiration rate is increasing, there is deterioration of plant, or we can say flower, due to microbial growth. Water is stressed out because it is being used, and there is another character, that is ethylene is being accumulated around in its vicinity. So all these factors, when we have harvested a flower, will lead to deterioration of that flower. And thus here to prevent, or we can say to delay this deterioration, there is a need for appropriate post-harvest management. So our target for post-harvest management is to have a thorough understanding of all these physiological aspects which are continuing in the flower when it is being harvested. So as I have told that it is not only just what we do to the flower when we harvest it. It is also how we have cultivated the flower, how we have harvested the flower, and what are its what we have done, or what are the factors after we have harvested it. So we will discuss briefly regarding them under 3 subheadings, that is pre-harvest factors, harvest factors, and post-harvest factors. So now in the pre-harvest factors, the prime concern in pre-harvest factor is the genetic makeup or the genetic constitution. Now, vast life, or we can say the post-harvest life of rose is different from carnation. Carnation is different from gladiolus. Gladiolus is different from, we can say, tuberose. So this means that it is the genetic constitution which determines their post-harvest performance or post-harvest life. So here we can't alter this. We are just here to improve the post-harvest life. We are not going to totally change it. So first of all, when if we want our crop or we want our flower to perform better, it is our our selection of these variety or a crop which we are going to plant. Within a crop also, we can say there is varietal differences. Some varieties, they are having good post-harvest performance in comparison to another. So we should select appropriate variety also when we want to have a good post-harvest performance. Then now, when I'm saying that genetic constitution, even what we say that there are certain characteristics which are present within the plant which are going to affect its post-harvest performance. Like in gerbera, there is present hollow stem. And in case of, we can say, chrysanthemum, there is solid stem. Then we are having some leaf features also. Some plants are having very big sized leaves. So in that case, their area of transpiration will be more. Or we can say, on the other hand, they can supplement when cut with a good food reserve to the plant. Some are having very excised leaves, or we can say very small leaves. So they are going to affect, or we can say that they are going to perform in a different way. And the third important aspect in this genetic constitution is the transgenic plants. Now, in our later talk, we will discuss regarding an important factor, that is the ethylene. So there are ethylene sensitive plants or ethylene sensitive plants. Now, transgenic plants, now these days, several chemical manipulations have been done using different chemicals to increase the post-harvest performance by targeting some of the physiological mechanism. But nowadays, in this era of biotechnology, transgenic plants have been developed. Now, in transgenic plants, in floricultural crops, the target is to increase the post-harvest life. And to increase this post-harvest life, the prime concern was to target the ethylene synthesizing genes. So there are two main genes which were involved in ethylene synthesis. There are the ACC synthase, that is amino cyclopropane carboxylic acid synthase, and ACC oxidase, that is amino cyclopropane carboxylic acid oxidase. So these two genes, they either antisense or these two genes are silenced in transgenic plants, and this has been done in carnation and roses. And those transgenic carnations and roses, they have higher life as compared to their normal, or we can say the those plants which are not have been silenced with these genes. Further, mutations have also been induced. ESR1 mutant of chrysanthemum has longer vast life because they are going to interfere with the ethylene biosynthesis, and ETR1 in petunia. So there are other examples also where genes have been targeted to increase the vast life, because those genes will not allow the ethylene synthesis to occur at a normal pace. Either it will be slowed down or it will be reduced. So if ethylene is reduced, and this ethylene is a trigger for senescence process. Then second main factor is first is the genetic constitution, which we should keep in view when we are just planting. We are just going for we want to get a flower. First target is that what genetic constitution is our plant having. Then second is what environment we provide to that plant. Now in that there is light. Light plays a very important role. And here also crops, they vary in their requirement to the intensity, wavelength, duration and direction of light. If we are providing very high light, then scorching can occur. But if very low light is there, photosynthesis will be disrupted, metabolic activities will be slow, and the overall growth will be less. So if a plant is not healthier, how we can expect to have good flowers from it? So light during the growing conditions, or we can say in the field, they are very important. Further, the spectra of light is also important. Like in certain crops, UV light and blue light in spectra, their supplementation promotes the anthocyanin production. Then again, as I have said, that rose and carnations, there are certain which require high light intensity. Others are the shade plants like ficus, begonia, and anthurium, which requires the low light intensity. So there is great variation also pertaining to the light intensity. Then the third factor is temperature. So temperature, the whole body mechanism works on the temperature. The plant is undergoing several processes. Photosynthesis is there, respiration is there, growth regulators are produced. It is going to sense the environmental changes. These are all regulated by genes and then enzymes. And enzymes, they work on specific temperature. So different enzymes are there. So appropriate, if there is very high temperature, that is going to reduce the quality of the plant, and very low temperature, they are also going to slow down the growth. And even chilling injury, or we can say freezing injuries, are caused at sub-zero temperatures. Now, different plants, they have different optimum temperature requirement. Like rose, it is having 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. Carnation grows well at 20 degrees centigrade. Hydrangea, 24 degrees centigrade. And this temperature is very good for the internodal elongation also. Then if gerbera in greenhouses is grown at 20 degrees centigrade, it will be having more, or we can say enhanced height, root length, biomass will be accumulated at a greater pace, it will be having a good leaf area, and photosynthetic rate will be also good. Then we are having humidity. So next important factor is humidity. So variation in humidity varies with season, weather, and daylight, day and night in greenhouses. So if plants are growing in a vicinity of high humidity, they are more prone to fungal and bacterial diseases. And at the same time, if humidity is low, they can be having thin leaves, or browning of leaf edges can also take place. And for having a controlled, or we can say optimum humidity, adequate ventilation is also needed, so that there is not humidity, relative humidity does not rise to a great extent. So another is the next is the mineral nutrition or the fertilization. So food is very important, and in case of plants, they are generally using macro and micronutrients. Three main nutrients are NPK, so adequate amount of these nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium should be provided to the plant, and they generally influence influence the plant growth at one or other phase. Several micronutrients like zinc, manganese, they are going, iron, they are playing very important role. Even boron, we are having a good role in reproductive development. So all the plants, depending upon their nutrient requirement, they should be provided with the nutrients. Then another important is the irrigation. So when we are talking about irrigation, irrigation is very crucial for the growth. So this means water. Water is required for almost all the developmental phases, and very good quantity of water, or we can say flooding conditions or drought conditions, they should be avoided because they will lead to stress. Then other factors includes pathogens, insect, pest, or toxic gases. So growth of a plant or a crop in the field should be appropriate, because if it is grown under good conditions, then it will be going to have very good post-harvest life, because all these pre-harvest factors are developing, are leading to a good physiological aspects or good physiological attributes in the plant, and these through different mechanisms, through different interactions, going to affect the post-harvest performance. And in flowers, we know that it is ultimately the post-harvest performance which is of commercial significance. Now, some key factors which are to be noticed at the time of harvest, that stage, time, and method. So they are important factors. So stage of harvest. Stage of harvesting is very important. If a plant, if a crop, or we can say if a flower is harvested at too immature bud stage, then it will not open. And if it is harvested at a very later stage, then it means when it is attached to the plant, it has started senescence, then it will show withering at a very early stage. So optimum stage, and that stage also further varies with species, cultivar, and distance to market. Means the stage of harvesting is also determined or can be altered depending upon the distance to the market, that whether we are harvesting the plant for local market or we are harvesting a plant for the distant market. Then requirement of consumer also, because it is the demand of consumer also that he wants the flower fully in a fully open condition at the present time. So at that stage it will be harvested. But if a consumer requires a plant to be utilized after a few days or after 2 to 3 days, then the stage of harvest will be different. So the stage of harvesting is very important, and there are some these commercial crops and their stages have been mentioned, like rose, when the calyx becomes almost perpendicular to bud, gladiolus, culflorate show colors, carnation, there is paintbrush stage, chrysanthemum spray, flowers half open, and so on. So these are the some stages of harvesting. This is rose, then lilium, colored bud stage, anthurium when spadix is fully opened, bird of paradise, then when first floret opens, then this is the carnation, paintbrush stage, chrysanthemum, outer petals, calais just before the spathe begins to turn out, and in gladiolus 1 to 5 birds showing color. Now, what is the time of harvesting? It is another crucial factor. Generally, harvesting of flowers is recommended at morning and evening hours. Now, what is the reason behind this is that during morning, the water level or the water status of plant or the crop or the flower is very good. So the plants or the flower is fully turgid. So at that time, harvesting will lead to more longer post-harvest life. And in evening hours, in addition to, we can say, water, the carbohydrate contents are more, because the flower plant was photosynthesizing for the whole day, and now the reserves are present in sufficient amount in the flower. So evening hours, they are preferred. We don't prefer to harvest crop or the flowers at afternoon, because at the time water is being lost through transpiration at a very high pace. And another thing is temperature during afternoon is comparatively higher than morning and evening hours. So preferable time for harvest is morning and evening. Now the next is, should be the mode of harvesting. We prefer to use sharp tools to cut flowers so that the crushing of tissue is avoided. So if we cut them with the sharp tools, then they will be cut with a jerk, or we can say that when we are crushing the stem, every plant is having a defense mechanism in it. And defense mechanisms, they become active if we hurt them a lot. So when we are crushing a tissue, the plant's secondary metabolites will be synthesized, and these secondary metabolites, they will accumulate at its base and will not allow the water to move up. They will block the water channel. This we will discuss also. And we should try to give them the slanting cut is preferred in comparison to horizontal cut, because this slanting cut will lead to higher surface area, and this surface area, if there is more surface area, more absorption of water or the floral preservative will take place. Then another thing is, when the crop is having hard stem like chrysanthemum, so basal 10 centimeter is left so that very hard stem is not cut. Then those which are like dahlia or other flowers, which in which stem there is present latex or any milky secretion is there we just cut the stem and dip in hot water so that all these exudates, they are eliminated. Now, we have just discussed what are the pre-harvest factors and the harvest factors. Now, senescence, when we are, whether the flower is now on the plant or it has been detached, senescence is a developmental phase in aging, and it occurs prior to the death of a plant. So here we are discussing the flower senescence when we have detached the flower from the plant. Now, once we have detached it, we have triggered the process of senescence. So senescence is a highly ordered process comprising of structural, biochemical, molecular mechanisms or the changes which lead to programmed cell death. So senescence is going to lead to the programmed cell death. So this is the main switch where we want to work. This senescence switch should not be triggered if we want to have a long post-harvest life. So what leads to senescence, and at what step, what switch we should off so that senescence is slowed down. This is our target. So our target to understand the post-harvest physiology is to have a detailed knowledge of all the changes which are occurring during senescence, so that we can target any one of that change which will further lead to delay in the senescence process. Now, visible sign of senescence when we have detached the flower from the plant is color change. Now, in chrysanthemum stems, cut stems, we are having leaves also. So when the leaf starts yellowing, we say that the plant has started senescence and now its post-harvest life is over. Or fading of petal color occurs, as in case of carnation and petunia. Or bluing occurs, as in roses. Or sometimes abscission, that is the petals, they show abscission, as in sweet pea and snapdragon. So these are the visible signs of senescence. Now, prior to these visible signs, what physiological changes have occurred in the plant? What physiological changes have occurred in the flower? That is, it has lost the turgidity, it has lost the membrane integrity, it has lost dry matter, and there was remobilization of metabolites. Metabolites from flowers, we can say from the petals, they were entering into the sepals, or from sepals to petals, and then from petals to androecium or gynoecium or towards the seed. All this remobilization is going on. And these physiological changes, what was leading to these physiological changes were those biochemical events which were being triggered. They were the respiration rate has been increased, ethylene production has been increased, amount of reactive oxygen species have been increased, cell components, they are too hydrolyzed, protein content, carbohydrate content, nucleic acid content, that has been lost. And further, there was leakage of pigments, sugars, and mineral ions. So all these biochemical events started. They brought these physiological changes, and these physiological changes ultimately led to senescence, and from senescence, there was the loss of the flower acceptability. Now, as senescence, it is affected by the key process related to senescence is respiration. Now, we all know what is respiration. Respiration is the utilization of stored organic material, generally the carbohydrates, proteins. So that is being converted into the chemical energy in the form of ATP and NADH. And this chemical energy is being utilized by the flowers for their cellular activities. Now, when the flower after harvesting is respiring, means it is utilizing the food present in it. So once that food is being utilized, there will be loss of weight. And the byproduct of this respiration are the heat and carbon dioxide. So there will be release of heat, and heat is going to increase the temperature. This we all know. There is release of carbon dioxide, which is even going to alter the pH, and later we will discuss how it is going to alter the other composition also. Now, this means that the rate of deterioration of flower, that is, at what speed a flower is going to deteriorate, or we can say the post-harvest life is dependent upon this respiration rate. And this respiration rate, if it is high, it will be further accompanied by high transpiration rate as well as higher ethylene production and its action. So this means that When respiration rate will be increased, there will be more transpiration, more ethylene production. And this more transpiration and more ethylene production, they are even going to add on to the senescence process. They are going to hasten the senescence process. They are going to hasten the deterioration of the flower, and they are going to reduce the post-harvest life. Now, the respiration. So this means that respiration should be targeted, and this rate of respiration is governed by temperature. Temperature is governing the respiration. And here I just want to stress that this temperature in case of flowers is very important. Now, temperature coefficient, it is a term. For every 10-degree rise in temperature, the rate of respiration is denoted by the temperature coefficient. Now, in other horticultural commodities, like we are having fruits, vegetables. Now, in case of fruits and vegetables, this temperature coefficient is 2 or 3. When I am saying 2 or 3, this means that for every 10-degree rise in temperature, respiration will be doubled or it will become 3 times. But in case of flowers, this temperature coefficient is 8. That is, for every 10-degree rise in temperature, the rate of respiration will become 8 times. So this should be our target, that the harvested flower temperature should not be raised. It should be lowered down so that the rate of respiration is kept constant, or we can say it should be slowed down. So this, as I have said in my, when just we started, we said that flowers are highly perishable. So we are always saying that flowers are highly perishable, but the reason for their high perishability is this temperature coefficient. This temperature coefficient, high value of temperature coefficient, this is determining the perishable nature, or we can say the post-harvest life. Now, we come to another. So we are discussing senescence. In senescence, key role is, these are the simultaneous, or we can say the synchronous factors relating to senescence. It is the respiration, temperature, and third one is the ethylene. So some flowers, they respond to ethylene, that is ethylene sensitive flowers, that is in them, if the ethylene endogenous or exogenously applied, they will show more senescence, or they will show faster senescence in comparison to ethylene insensitive flowers. Now, as we all know that ethylene is a gaseous plant growth regulator, and in ethylene insensitive flowers, its work is being carried out by abscisic acid. So ABA, that plays the role. Now, this ethylene, we can say that ethylene production, what triggers the ethylene? Now, for senescence, ethylene is a, we can say, signal. So when ethylene concentration or amount, endogenous ethylene increases in ethylene sensitive plants, then senescence starts, which is being accompanied by several other processes. Now, what triggers this ethylene? Now, in some plants like pollination, pollination is the signal. When the pollens, when pollination has occurred, then gynoecium will release ethylene. So this release of ethylene is being sensed by petals. So once these petals, they sense the pollination, they will start showing senescence. And another factor which is adding to our problem is that ethylene undergoes autocatalytic production. Autocatalytic production means that once ethylene has been synthesized in small quantities, it is going to produce itself. Means ethylene itself is acting as a catalyst for its own production. So either there is a small increase in endogenous ethylene, or a very small concentration of ethylene enters from some exogenous source, it is going to further increase the concentration. It is going to adverse the condition by producing more ethylene. So when I have said that the one stimulus is like pollination, other is with harvest towards from maturity. With the maturity of harvest means when we are moving towards the harvesting or plant is maturing, ethylene is going to be produced. If a plant is physically damaged, then also ethylene is. Now, as I have said that we have detached the plant, detached the flower, we have created a physical damage that is going to trigger the switch for ethylene. Water stress is there, then also ethylene will be produced. Temperature is increased, then also ethylene will be produced. So these switches will trigger the ethylene production, and this ethylene production will further going to mediate which senescence processes, like there will be change in respiration rate. Earlier, the flowers, they were respiring at a normal pace, but once ethylene is there, their rate of respiration will increase. There will be change in the permeability of membrane. Chlorophyll will be disrupted, means there will be loss of chlorophyll, loss of color will be there. Even there will be conversion of chloroplasts to chromoplasts, like carotenoids, anthocyanins will be produced. As in our first, when I just started with the senescence, I talked about the visible signs. So visible signs, they were found by the destruction of this chlorophyll and conversion of this chloroplasts to chromoplasts. Now, water relation. This is another important aspect. So the water status of a plant is, or we can say, sorry, water status of a flower which is harvested is determined by what is its water content, water uptake and water loss. Now the flower is transpiring from its surface, and if it is provided, if it is a cut flower, we are providing it with water also. So it is uptaking water also. So what is this relation? Means relation is determined by how much water it is uptaking and how much water is being lost. So plants, when they lose water in the form of vapors, they wilt and they show weight loss. What ultimately happening is that water uptake is hindered by xylem. Now we know that xylem is the channel for water absorption in plants. So this xylem channel, it is being occluded with microorganisms with passage of time, because we have provided it, we have detached it. So we have welcomed the microorganisms on that injured part. Or as I have said, plant has secondary defense mechanisms. When we have harvested it, secondary metabolites like pectins, phenols, they have started accumulating on the cut ends, or they have blocked the xylem. So they are not now allowing the water to enter, or some air bubble enters into the xylem. So this means that in all these cases, even when we are keeping the cut flower or the cut stem in water, then also their wilting occurs, because the water channel has been clogged by either of these three things. Now, senescence has started, respiration has increased, temperature has increased. Then we have said that water loss has occurred. To further adverse the conditions, now the cell membrane integrity will be lost. So why this integrity is lost? Because ethylene and other secondary messengers, they are going to now activate the lipid degrading enzymes. Lipid degrading enzymes, especially phospholipase B and lipoxygenases. So that will result in peroxidation of lipids. Now biomembranes, all our biomembranes, they are having fluid mosaic model. So in fluid mosaic model, we are having the phospholipid bilayer, which is intervened by the proteins. So if that lipid structure is being disrupted, so membrane integrity will be lost. And further, this peroxidation of lipids, or we can say the lipid hydrolysis, results in the release of certain reactive oxygen species like malonaldehyde, MDA. So when these reactive oxygen species is increasing, these are going to change the permeability of biomembranes. So once the permeability has been changed, now the cell has a gate, that is the membrane. Membrane was selectively permeable. It was not allowing all the components to enter or loose. It was very specific regarding to its loss or entry. So for that case, now there is change in permeability, ion leakage, and thus metabolism will be disrupted. Then compositional changes, they will also occur. So in compositional changes, what will be there? There will be loss of chlorophyll, as we have in Chrysanthemum. The leaves are along with the cut stem. So color of the fading will take place because chlorophyll will be degraded. There will be loss of carotenoids because the products which are, we can say the starting compound for carotenoid is now being used in ABA synthesis. There will be loss of anthocyanin also. Anthocyanin will decrease, flavonoid to anthocyanin ratio will increase, and this will lead to senescence. There will be loss of antioxidants like tocopherol. Now it is a very good antioxidant which is present in the flowers to prevent the lipid peroxidation. But once senescence has started, the decomposition of tocopherols occurs, and this decomposition leads to lipid peroxidation. Several other hydrolytic enzymes like proteases, nucleases, which will lead to disruption of proteins, DNA, and RNA will occur. Now, all these changes are going on in the flower, and the energy which is required is being provided by respiration, and the respiratory substrate is the carbohydrate. So ultimately, there will be decrease in the carbohydrates. So what is happening? Just to sum up, respiration is occurring, metabolites are being decreased, compositional changes occurring, osmotic potential is reduced, membrane integrity is lost, and ultimately, once the membrane loses its integrity, turgidity is also lost. So this was just what is happening when we have harvested the flower from the parent plant. Common practice which we do when we harvest a flower, pre-cooling. So what is the background behind this? When we pre-cool it, we just want to avoid the field heat. We want to lower the temperature so that respiration rate is kept low. Cut stems so that milky fluid is exudated. Recut the stem pads to avoid the blockage. We have all discussed now. I'm just going to tell you that these common post-harvest treatments are done and what is the reason behind for their doing. Then in chemical treatments, conditioning means we keep them in very good vessels which are having water in them or in an open room with good ventilation to have good circulation of air. Then impregnation is generally done with some chemicals like cobalt chloride or nickel chloride so that blockage in case of xylem should be avoided. Then there are pulsing, bud opening, and holding solutions with different compositions. Now, just with this background of senescence and what is happening during senescence, floral preservatives are being used to keep the cut flowers. So, first requirement is water, but now here water should be deionized or distilled, means acidic water with very low pH. So this will, why we are using this water? Because this acidic water will prevent the microbial growth. We say that floral preservatives should have sugar because this sugar is going to act as a respiratory substrate. Our flower is respiring, our flower is under the process of senescence. It requires sugar. If there will be sugar, if it is having sugar, osmotic potential will be maintained, and for time osmotic potential is maintained, it will remain turgid and the sign of petal wilting will be delayed. Further, these chemicals are added, like biocide is added for inhibition of microbial growth, or growth regulators can be added to initiate or accelerate or inhibit various biochemical processes. Now, it has been observed that this thiodiaziron cytokinin, which is when added to vast solution, especially in case of cut chrysanthemum, it prevents the blockage of xylem. In deposition of xylem of a certain metabolites takes place when it is kept in normal was water, but if TDZ is added, there was no xylem blockage. So these growth regulators, they are going to play a role at one or another phase. Then growth retardants, just to give a time, so respiration rate is retarded. or ethylene inhibitors are added, like amino vinyl glycine, amino ethoxy vinyl glycine, methoxy vinyl glycine, or we are having the acetic acid, amino oxy acetic acid. So these are the inhibitors. We add them to the wash solution so that synthesis of ethylene is inhibited. Now, so these thus means what post-harvest conditions should be provided so that we can have a hand on the physiological aspects after harvesting. First is the temperature. In temperature, generally cold storage is preferred. We all know from years that always it is said that once the flower is harvested, it should be kept at a low temperature. So the reason for this low temperature is so that respiratory substrate depletion is regulated, transpiration rate is regulated, and production and action of ethylene is being regulated. So because higher temperature will result in faster utilization of carbohydrates and water, and there will be accelerated senescence. At the same time, if temperature is low, respiration rate will be low, there will be decreased utilization of sugars, and senescence will be delayed. Then another is light. Generally, the plant flowers, they are stored or transported at low light intensity or in darkness also, so that their growth is slowed down. But in some cases, when we harvest them at a bud stage, then exposure to high light intensity is important for opening of these buds. Further, if we supplement the light with red light on cut flowers, especially roses, we can suppress its opening and wilting. We can delay it. Blue light, it has been found to be potent in delaying the petal senescence of cut carnations. And in certain cases, when the light is very low, we can say, in case of especially roses, it can lead to bluing and even bent neck and stem bending in gerbera. So depending upon the crop or the flower, we have to standardize the light intensity in which we want to store it. Then humidity. Now the atmosphere in which we want to store or keep our cut flower is very important. Cut flowers, when they are kept in low humidity, their rate of transpiration will be very high. So in that case, when they will lose the water, their weight will be reduced. And if weight is reduced, this will also be a commercial loss, especially in case of the loose flowers. And if they are kept in high humidity, petal turgidity will be maintained. So further, one thing which we want to consider here is humidity should also be appropriate, because in case of very humid environment also, microbial attack increases. So thus, from all this our discussion, we come to have that if we want to reduce the deteriorative effects, if we want to improve the post-harvest life, low temperature, high relative humidity, and proper ventilation means proper regulation of ethylene, oxygen, and carbon dioxide levels are very important. So these three factors need to be targeted. When we have, now we understand what is physiological mechanisms behind this senescence. So our target should be to lower the temperature, to maintain the humidity, and to play with these three gases if we want to have a good post-harvest performance of a flower. So for this, generally storage methods are there, wet and dry storage. I will not discuss them in detail, just a brief, because the further resource persons will discuss them in the post-harvest handling. I'm just focusing on the reason for the low temperature storage. So in wet storage, it is not good for transportation. They are kept in water. So when we are talking about wet storage, we have provided the plant with water, and that water can be supplemented with sugars also. And second, wet storage in low temperature. So our three targets, that is low temperature along with the water supply and metabolite supply, has been fulfilled in this storage method. So if we store plant flowers under this condition, senescence is going to be delayed and post-harvest life is going to be improved. But this wet storage is not good during transportation, then there is preferences dry storage. So dry storage is generally sealing of flowers in plastic bags, or different, we can say, different packaging materials are there, like polythenes are there, LDPE, HDPE is there, CFB boxes are there, or we can say canes are there. So different packaging materials means in dry storage, we are not providing it with the water. We are just keeping them so that we are retaining their moisture. Our purpose here in case of just this dry storage is that we want to change, we want to reduce the water loss from them, because we are not providing them with the water. So then high-tech technologies when come, there was controlled atmospheric storage, hypobaric storage. In controlled atmospheric storage, we provided them with the controlled carbon dioxide and oxygen levels, and in hypobaric, these conditions were provided with the high under pressure was also regulated. So now just I want to focus on the modified atmospheric storage. So there is physiological aspects in this. Now generally in case of fruits and vegetables, modified atmospheric package storage has been recommended for different crops. Now in case of flowers, it has just initiated, models have been developed. Now the basic idea behind this, now in sometimes we mislead it with the dry storage. In dry storage, we were just packing in any packaging material. That is the dry storage. But when I am talking about the modified atmospheric storage, this means that we have also modified the atmosphere. Now, how we have modified? So this modified atmospheric storage, the respiration rate of the flower, which is to be packed or which is to be stored, is recorded. Based on this means that how much oxygen is it using and how much carbon dioxide is it being releasing. Now we want to modify its atmosphere. In most of the floricultural crops, the desirable concentration of carbon dioxide is 5 to 7, and for oxygen, it is 1 to 2%. Now in normal atmosphere, the concentration of carbon dioxide is very less and of oxygen is very high. So this means in this package, our target is to bring down the oxygen concentration and increase the carbon dioxide concentration. Basic purpose of this modified atmospheric package or storage is we want our flowers to go to sleep. Means they will be living, we will wake them at their commercial end, or we can say they will be wakened by their consumer. We want them to sleep. Sleep means the respiration rate will be lowered down. We want to provide them oxygen, which is just required for their survival, but not to required for their high metabolic activities. So keeping this in view, the packages are designed, means there are different sleeves, like PP sleeve is there, polypropylene, low density polyethylene, high density polyethylene. So based on the respiration rate of the flower, which we want to pack, these sleeves, they are selected, and to match their perforations, we make holes on their surface so that the flower is kept in their desirable concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So this is generally done. Another emerging technology in flowers is active packaging. Now here it is add-on to modified atmosphere. In modified atmosphere, we made perforations in the sleeves so that we can make their oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration at the standard rates. But here in case of active packaging, we are including sub-constituent into the packaging material, which will enhance or which will alter the head space concentration. So this means we are now managing the, what we are managing? We are managing the atmospheric composition in its vicinity. So it can be, that is ethylene, moisture, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. So different sachets are there. We will pack them when we are packing them in the sleeve of interested that we can add oxygen absorber in them, so that when the plant is showing metabolic activities, oxygen will be released, and when oxygen is released, that is absorbed. Now these oxygen absorber sachets generally contain iron powder. Then depending upon the commodity, there is utilization of carbon dioxide emitters or squenchers, because the rate of respiration varies from plant to plant, or we can say crop to crop. If they are emitting it at a very fast pace, then we will require squenchers to prevent the bursting of the package with high amount of carbon dioxide. In that case, activated carbon and calcium hydroxide is the composition. And if we want to use emitter, because carbon dioxide will suppress the microbial growth, in that case, we will add sodium carbonate. Then if there is ethylene sensitive flowers, we can add ethylene squenchers also, because with age, flower is going to release ethylene. And as I have said, that ethylene is autocatalytic producer. So if we add ethylene squencher sachet, it will delay senescence. And ethylene squenchers are generally potassium permanganate chemical. Then moisture absorber through silica gel pouch, which are generally used. So they also are added to prevent the microbial growth and to reduce the metabolic activities. Now, this active packaging technology for several fruits and vegetables have been done and initiated in floricultural crops also. Now, porous clay-coated paper active packaging means here orchids are being packed in a paper which is having a coat of porous clay. So this porous clay absorbs the ethylene, and those orchids which are being packed in this clay-coated paper, they are having higher post-harvest life. So now just coming to conclusion, that genetic makeup, environmental factors from cultivation to marketing, performance of endogenous and exogenous plant hormones, carbohydrate and other metabolite contents, and water relations, they are the key constituents to understand the physiological aspects of a flower performance. So if we are having a thorough understanding of these factors, where they are working, what process they are triggering, we will be able to elucidate some novel approaches that will help us to delay senescence, increase moss life, and therefore increase the post-harvest performance too. Then further, this mechanism, or we can say these approaches, will help us to further identify a hierarchy of regulators or a specific pattern of events that orchestrate senescence. Means we should have a clear idea how these different regulators or events, what are events which are happening leading to senescence. Further, there is a need to categorize flowers. We have just categorized flowers that whether they are ethylene sensitive or ethylene insensitive, but main need is to categorize them on the basis of the metabolism, what is their respiration rate. So based on that, we can have development of several approaches for delaying senescence and thus improving the post-harvest life. Thank you for patiently hearing me.
Thank you so much, madam, for your nice presentation regarding this post-harvest physiology of flowers. Thank you so much. Sir, you have, madam, you have elaborated this presentation in detail about the physiology, means pre-harvest factors and post-harvest factors, and how this flowers change its physiology after harvesting, how to control this ethylene management, manage the ethylene and ethylene sensitive flowers, and others aspect you have elaborated in detail. So I firmly believe, and our listeners and our audience will, I think, would be get benefited about this presentation. So thank you so much, madam, for your kind presentation. and telling in detail about this physiology aspect, because this aspect is a very sensitive aspect in the being a floriculturist. So a little bit knowledge, but we don't know in detail. Some we are lacking a knowledge. We could not manage properly. So I think this presentation will be very much helpful in this delivery. This deliberation very much helpful for all the participants whosoever joined this program. So once again, I express my sincere thanks to ma'am, Dr. Salini Jhanji. Madam, thank you so much, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next presentation is about post-harvest handling of loose flowers. So, madam, the speaker is Dr. Pooja Sharma. Madam is here. Pooja Sharma, madam. Now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, madam. So thank you so much, madam, joining. Speaker, all the audience are informed. Madam will speak about the post-harvest handling of loose flowers. So madam is presently working as an associate professor in the Department of Floriculture Landscape Architecture at Dr. Y.S. Parmar University of Horticulture and Forestry, Noni, Solan. About the madam's this biodata, a little bit information I am just Dr. Pooja Sharma is gold medalist for first position in undergraduation, and she qualified BSc, MSc, and PhD from this Noni University. Madam is specialized in floriculture and landscaping and crop improvement, lawn grass and their management, native ornamentals, plant propagation, including tissue culture. She has a work experience about 12 years of teaching and research in the Department of Floriculture and Landscape Architecture, and best paper awards, teaching activities, number of MSc students, 14 students guided, and developed 25 mutants of carnation, gamma ray under DST funded projects and are under evaluation. She is associated with the breeding work in carnation, gladiolus, and chrysanthemum. She is handling projects under the ICRP and as a co-PI. More than 30 papers in different journals published and book chapters. As you know, the carnation is a very important crop, and this Department of Floriculture Landscape Architecture is considered as a and recognized as the center floriculture landscape architecture. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I heartily welcome Madam Dr. Pooja Sharma for joining, for accepting our request to present this webinar. Your experience, definitely we will get means enlightened about your experience and our students. We have a diverse group of madam this means listeners and faculty members, students, PhD, UG, and it also, and some entrepreneurs also, those who are means involved in various kind of jobs like as a flower arranger and marketing, so value additions part, so very diverse group of this audience. So not wasting a time, I invite you, madam. I call up, please share your presentation, and madam, please.
Thank you so very much, sir. Dr. Tomar, सबसे पहले तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, sir. You gave me an opportunity to talk to such a diverse audience today. सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. So आज के इस प्रोग्राम में जो कि नेशनल वेबिनार है on the post harvest management of flower crops, I am honored that I have been given a small slot here to talk on post harvest handling of loose flowers. Is my slide visible to you, sir?
Madam, you are visible and you are means audible also.
Right, sir. Right.
You go ahead.
Thank you so very much, sir. So coming to the post-harvest handling of loose flowers. So the first thing is that if we talk about the Indian floriculture industry, so our industry is more of domestic industry as compared to the export type of things that we are doing in the country. As it is rightly said by our honorable director, Dr. K.V. Prasad, also in the morning, that our domestic industry is stronger as compared to the ones which we are exporting. So if we talk about the loose flowers are the ones which are there in our tradition. इसीलिए इनको हम traditional flowers भी कहते हैं. और हमारी संस्कृति के अंदर ये सम्मानित है. सुबह मॉर्निंग जैसे ही हम we get up and we used to worship our gods and lords, from there it starts the use of flowers. Then another important aspect of floriculture is that in India, the floral adornments, it's there in our culture. So all the loose flowers, there are many. I'll be citing few of them as keeping in mind the constraint of time and all also. So floral adornments is another thing where these loose flowers, they are being extensively used. Similarly, decorations where we require a lot of garlands and other things where we use these loose flowers. Rangoli, which is definitely an integral part of our traditions. So rangolis, they are generally made South India में खासकर इसका बहुत ज़्यादा प्रचलन है, and we have been doing it regularly there. So importance of loose flowers overall, if we say that if we talk about the loose flower production, it is generally the larger amount of the total floriculture production in the country is constituted by the loose flowers. It is approximately 2,301.03 metric ton, and this is the data which we could get from the NHB. And Andhra Pradesh is the leading loose flower production state, although there are 3-4 states who keep on changing their position with respect to loose flower production. But since loose flowers, they are mostly produced in the South Indian states and they are being consumed there daily at least, as compared to our Northern Indian conditions. So out of the various traditional flowers, the most important ones are the marigold, chrysanthemum, tuberose, jasmine, China rose, and a lot others. I'll be talking something about their post-harvest handling here. और सभी क्रॉप्स की अगर हम बात करेंगे तो मैरीगोल्ड, जिसको हम गेंदा बोलते हैं, वो इस प्रकार की क्रॉप है which is being cultivated right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from the eastern part of the country to the western part. और इसकी प्रोडक्शन के साथ साथ it is demanded in the market also around the year. So what is the need of post-harvest handling? शालिनी मैम ने थोड़ा सा डिस्कस इस बात को ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं, but it is very important that flowers and ornamentals, they are integral part of human life and they are very perishable. Particularly if we talk about the loose flowers, they do not have a shelf life of more than 2 or 3 days. So what is important here, if a farmer is producing, some of the farmers, he has put a lot of acres of land in the cultivation of the loose flowers, then there should be some technologies that should be given to our farmers. There should be technology that should be given to the industry where we can reduce some of the post-harvest losses, which are estimated to approximately 30 to 35% overall if we talk about. And the flowers, since they are perishable, so the post-harvest handling practices, they become really necessary here. What happens to the flowers? Although Shalini ma'am has described it, the physiology, so I'll take up the things very shortly here. Then what happens to the flowers when we harvest them? Of course, when we have plucked the flowers, we have deprived it of from all the things, the khana pina it is taking from either from the soil, या फिर in the form of irrigation or from the foliar sprays we have been applying. So definitely there is depletion of carbohydrates after the harvesting. Rise in temperature, it leads to increased respiration rates. And respiration rates, it has direct correlation with the quality deterioration. And the microorganisms on the cut surface, they immediately start attacking there. And of course, the most biggest culprit in the post-harvest handling is the ethylene. It is something which is responsible for deterioration of all the products. And therefore, whenever we say post-harvest handling of flowers, whether it is cut flower or the loose flower, we generally aim to reduction of this ethylene. किसी न किसी तरीके से हम ethylene को कम कर पाएंगे अगर, तो definitely we can go for an improved post-harvest handling practice. So, if we talk about flower crops, अभी हम इंडिविजुअली फ्लावर क्रॉप्स की बात करेंगे, थोड़ा सा एक हरिडली एक क्विक व्यू ऑन दी व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स which are responsible for increasing the longevity of the flowers after their harvest. So we must not neglect the pre-harvest factors. Pre-harvest factors are the ones before harvest. That means we have to give optimum growing conditions to the plants to produce a quality cut flower or the quality loose flower. Then comes this harvest factors. So these are the factors when at the time of harvest, what are the precautions we'll have to take? What are the things we'll have to keep in mind to increase the shelf life of our flowers? And finally, the post-harvest factors. Here we are going to do a lot of manipulations related to the temperature, relative humidity, light, giving different type of growth regulator treatments to our plants, applying refrigerated type of storage, etc. So pre-harvest factor mein what is important is selection of the crop. But of course, it depends upon the selection of species or the cultivars, because every species or cultivar, it has got genes in it. The genes, on the genes, it has been written that it is going to be have this much of shelf life or the waste life. But still, whenever we go for crop selection in floriculture, it should be market demand driven. The things which are demanded in the market, if you are going to produce those crops, then it would be going to be better, and the farmer would be definitely fetching better prices in the market. But still, one should know the optimum growing practices of that particular crop that has been selected. The optimum growing temperature should be given to the crop, the light which is required, the optimum level, of course, the amount of water, amount of nutrients that has to be given to the plant so as to raise healthy plant or healthy flowers. Because healthy flower, if we are able to produce quality flowers, then there is hardly any need for going for many of the use of chemicals after the harvest. So first and foremost things is the growing techniques. So of course, they should be crop specific. Time of planting should be kept in mind that the crop we should grow a healthy crop. And of course, whenever in floriculture crops, generally we go for round the year production of the flowers. So our production cycle, it should coincide with the market demand as well. It must be kept in mind. And of course, the different type of intercultural operations, or we are going to grow our plants under the tunnels or the covers. And the intercultural operations, they are crop specific. Whatever we want to do, they should be done at appropriate time period. Then if we say that we have raised our crops in the most precise manner, most appropriate manner, then comes the harvest factors. So harvest factors means at the time of harvest, whenever we are planning to go to our farm, we see that our product is ready for harvesting. So what are the things that we should be kept in, there should be kept in mind? So first and foremost is sanitation, our tools, our working area where we are supposed to take the flowers after harvesting, all the employees, they should be properly sanitized, and of course the containers. We need not to take every time the same container. You need to wash those, because once we'll pluck the flowers from the plant, we'll be carrying, it will be exuding many chemicals from there. And if you allow those chemicals to stick on your buckets and all, and taking the same bucket next day, already you're carrying the inoculum of fungus, bacteria, and several microorganisms to your feet. Then comes harvesting. Very important process. Overall, I'm taking the things for almost all the loose flowers. Then later on, I'll be covering individual flowers. So if we talk about harvesting, so what is the appropriate time? The most appropriate time is very early in the morning or late in the evening, and it has direct relation again with the respiration and the amount of turgor the plant is having early in the morning. Another very important thing is that whenever we plan to harvest our flowers, अगले दिन harvest करना है, तो पिछले दिन we will have to apply lot of irrigation to the flowers, because next day we are going to remove that flower. We are going to deprive that plant of the pani and khana pina, whatever we are going to give it when it is there on the plant. So you'll have to apply a lot of irrigation. And of course, so there are some sanitation practices. That is, surface पे आपको flowers को नहीं रखना है. हमारे cutting tools जो है, they should be frequently disinfected and clean और shady and cool place पे हमको अपने flowers को लेकर आना है. और यहाँ पर भी cool रखने का same reason behind keeping all the cool chain, whatever we are applying, either for the cut flowers or the loose flower, the reason is only one, that we want to reduce the rate of respiration of the flowers. Because सांसें उतनी हैं उस फ्लावर्स में, उसको आप तेज गर्मी के ऊपर रख के उस सांसों को जल्दी से फिनिश कर देंगे, या वी विल मैनेज सम things externally by giving cool temperature, by providing the humidity to the plant, so it does not desiccate during the post-harvest. So some of the flowers I've tried to mention here, the harvesting stages of loose flowers, since I've been assigned the topic of loose flowers only. So कुछ फूलों के loose flowers, अब loose flowers का प्रयोग हमें कैसे करना है? Generally in the decorations. And decoration में we see that flower आपका fully open होना चाहिए. Particularly it is the character of family Asteraceae that all the flowers they are to be harvested when the flowers they are fully open. So whether it is Marigold, which is one of the topmost amongst the loose flower, China Aster, Chrysanthemum, they are to be picked when the flowers are fully open. As far as tuberose is concerned, jasmine is concerned, so these are used in bud stages. So they are to be harvested at bud stage. And Crossendra also, beautiful flower. It gives a lot of color to our gajras and venis, and it is to be used when it is at fully open stage. Then we come to method of harvesting. How do we go for harvesting? So manually. India में बहुत ज़्यादा cultivate हो रहा है सारा का सारा loose flowers, and we do I suppose manually सारा का सारा, whether it is in North India or South India में manually इसके harvesting कर रहे हैं. Or however there could be the mechanical ways of harvesting the flowers, and flower harvesters they have been designed. I'll be talking of a flower harvester somewhere later in Marigold, लेकिन वो अभी तक हमारे country में नहीं आया है. Once the flowers they are harvested, what do we expect? That these loose flowers जो है तेजी के साथ will be putting them into strings, making the garlands of those flowers, sending them to the market, and they will be easily picked up by the consumers and used. And whenever we go for such decorations, then once we see that these decorations, they, what do we expect? To last them for 1 day or at the most 2 days. We don't expect huge vase life as we do in case of cut flowers, right? So there are certain, but still we have these crops, they are very precious and highly priced. So there are certain chemicals which are used for post-harvest handling of loose flowers. And from the table, I suppose all of us can see that generally aluminum sulfate at 0.1%, it is generally used for soaking of the flowers. It has got antimicrobial activities, and it helps to reduce the infection of those microbes and help us to retain the flowers for a longer duration. So in aster, chrysanthemum, jasmine, marigold, tuberose, and rose, almost in every crop, aluminum sulfate along with the sucrose, it can be used. Flower dip इसके अंदर किया जाता है, and after dipping, they are allowed to air dry, and after that, they are either converted into the garlands or the strings and sent to the market. Then coming to the packaging, finally, when आपका storage हमने flowers को कोई treatment दे दिया, then we'll be packing these flowers. So again, I would say that although these loose flowers, they are very important, but not much work has been reported on packaging of this material. बहुत I would say हमारे all the loose flowers कोई ज्यादा react नहीं करते हैं बेचारे भोले वाले, इनको हम generally gunny bags के अंदर, this is the farmer practice, I would say. गनी बैग्स के अंदर हम इनको टाई कर देते हैं, वेट गनी बैग्स ऑफ कोर्स टू रिटेन द मॉइस्चर. थोड़ा सा साइंस हमारे फार्मर्स भी यूज कर लेते हैं, एंड समटाइम्स इन क्रेट्स वी पैक दीस फ्लावर्स. And of course, the packaging is important because the physical damage is reduced, and it increases the shelf life as well. So this is the general fate of most of the loose flowers. These are packed in gunny bags, wet gunny bags, and sent to the market. However, there are a number of packaging materials, and research has also been done on different packaging material. So I'll be mentioning one of the research which one of my students also did in packaging of this loose marigold and chrysanthemums we have done here. So these are some of the sheets: polyethylene films, LDPE, aluminum foil, or cellophane wrapping. These are also employed commercially for the packaging of these loose flowers. However, coming to some specialist type of packaging, CFC boxes with holes. This is generally the ones which are recommended for the for either for the cut flowers or for the loose flower, these boxes, they retain the moisture level. They have got the holes. They give lot of chance to the flowers to respire, to excrete all of its ethylene and respire better. And the thermocol boxes. But this technology, actually, our farmers, they are takers of the technologies which are very suitable for them, economical also. Right, if उनका काम अगर उनका गनी बैग से चल रहा है, या they are using some cloth material for sending the things and they are getting money out of it, they would prefer all these types of things. So generally this type of packaging, that is CFC box and thermocol boxes, these are generally being used for the when we talk about export. And what out of all the loose flowers, what we are exporting is the jasmine. So this technology, it is commercially being utilized for the export or for trading of the jasmine. Then coming to the storage, very important practice, and it's a facility, I would say. If we have huge chunks of flowers with us, which immediately cannot be sent to the market, or there is already glut in the market, if we want to store our flowers for the 2-3 days, then cold storage is generally which can be used for the storage of loose flowers as well. So this cool chain concept, which generally applies for the cut flower crops, here for the loose flower crops we can apply it. Of course, pre-cooling is something where when we bring the flowers to a cool, shady places, then chemical treatments, I suppose 2-3 treatments I have already discussed with you. We go for packaging and we transport the things in the reefer van. And finally, the marketing is done. Even at the retailer, the cool chain facility, if it is available, the shelf life or the base life of the flowers, it increases. However, there are certain storage conditions for the different flowers. Our loose flowers, if we talk about marigold, jasmine, tuberose, chrysanthemum, or roses, they can be stored at different temperature ranges. Generally 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, we can store almost all the flowers, loose flowers if we talk about. And the storage duration is 3 to 5 days. They can comfortably be stored up to 3 to 5 days, and they can be sent to the market after that. And definitely they show a good shelf life even after that. So if we talk about the transport of the flowers, so flowers, the loose flower, they are generally transported by air. When we talk about export, otherwise throughout the country, since domestic हमारा इसका trade है, domestic हमारा product है, तो इसको हमें जब चलाना है, तो ये बाय रोड भी जा रहा है, थ्रू रेल्स भी जा रहा है, बसेस के थ्रू भी जा रहा है, एंड generally the market is too near. So what do our farmers do here in the hilly regions? They load their trucks or their buses with the flowers in the late evening hours, and early in the morning it reaches to the nearest market, or Delhi, and there is no need for going for specific transportation. There is no need to go for hi-fi type or reefer van type of things. They are not required. So this is how the farmers they are doing. So it was a general overview of how do we go for post-harvest handling of different flower crops. Coming to the specific flower crops, marigold, the most important flower crop which is being grown around the country. This is the study that we have carried out here, where it is for the pre-harvest treatment. So the foliage of the marigold plant, it was sprayed with BA 50 ppm, Jivamrit 10 ppm around 1 month before harvesting, and the flower buds also. The buds, they were also sprayed. BA, actually, it has got anti-senescence properties, and we try to see the effect of BA on the post-harvest life. So since the flowers after harvesting, it's really very difficult to soak them in some of the solutions and air drying them, packing the things in the polythene and sending to the market. So when we apply this BA, you can see that these are the two conditions. The right side of me, it is when we have stored the flowers outside open में हमने इसको रखा, and left side में when we have kept in cold storage. So it was seen that these flowers which were treated with the BA 50 ppm, we could be able to cold store it at 4 degrees centigrade up to 5 days, and even after 5 days, it showed a shelf life of approximately 3 days. So there are some of the pre-harvest things that we can do to our flowers also to enhance their shelf life. And as far as the harvesting of marigold flowers are concerned, so it is done manually, and plucking is done. They are generally packed, taken into the different baskets or the buckets. Then this photograph I could borrow from internet. It is definitely not a हमारे किसी Indian farm का photograph नहीं है. So this is the mechanical harvester that was employed for the harvesting of the marigold. And I wish that some days, since we all are having huge marigold farms with us, we can have this type of facility also here in our country. लेकिन हम अपनी कंट्री की बात करेंगे तो यहाँ पर मैरीगोल्ड इट इज बीइंग ट्रीटेड लाइक यू कैन सी हियर बैम्बू बास्केट्स जो है वो किसानों का फेवरेट प्लेस है फॉर पैकेजिंग ऑफ दीज फ्लावर्स. एंड लेटर ऑन थोड़ा थोड़ा मॉडिफिकेशन हुआ तो इसके अंदर ये जो प्लास्टिक शीट्स वाले बॉक्सेस हैं आप देख पा रहे हो, इसका प्रयोग किया जाने लगा. Or very recently, these bamboo baskets, so they are inside lined with the newspaper. They are also used for the packaging of marigold flowers. And very recently, these polyethylene bags, they are used for transportation of marigold flowers. Again, I would like to say here that the farmers, they are quite comfortable. They are getting good prices out of these packaging also and transporting these things also. So although a lot of research it is being done under AICRP also for the development of different packaging material, and we have also come up with some of the outputs that whenever we go for use of these cardboard lined boxes, then we get better shelf life. So this is also one of the experiment that we conducted here in Solon, that we have used different type of sheets, polyethylene sheets, cellophane and newspaper for storage of the flowers. And it was found that polyethylene, when we cover our flowers with the polyethylene, it can be cold store up to 5 to 6 days, very comfortable. So this is something, these are some of the techniques which farmers can also apply. These are the packaging material which are available in the market, and if we have guts in the market, या फिर हमारे पास market में हमें program करके अपने flowers को according to the demand of the market, if we want to sell, we can do it like that. However, a lot of research is there. So this is about modified atmosphere packaging of different crops. So it was said that polyethylene bags also, when they were used, so they gave you better shelf life. So LDP bags, these are also one of the options. They could be one of the options for the packaging of the marigold flowers for increasing their shelf life. And as far as their transportation is concerned, so of course our farmers, so we harvest ये फूल बहुत भोला भाला और बहुत sturdy फूल है. It can कोई इसको bruising injury और इस type का कुछ परेशानी बहुत ज्यादा होती नहीं है after harvesting. So people, they are means बहुत प्यार से इसको handle भी नहीं कर रहे हैं. You can see how the things they are being transported. And this is how the marigold it is being marketed. तो ये strings इसके बना दिए जाते हैं, मालाओं के shape में इसको बना दिया जाता है, and even in the market you can see. And in the morning, it during the inaugural also, it was said that our marketing system of loose flowers is not very well organized. So whenever we talk about the floriculture market, so especially for the loose flowers, so you can see always like दरख्तों के नीचे आप floriculture की market को देखेंगे, या कोई सा छोटा सा area होगा जहाँ पर flowers की market को किया जाएगा. Although if we talk about कुछ foreign countries की बात करें तो आप देख पा रहे हैं कि यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा sophisticatedly plants they are हमारे फूलों का रख रखाव किया जा रहा है. These are the marigold which they are available in the polyethylene pouches, and they are selling it like this. And of course it's not like that कि marigold को हमेशा ही उस प्रकार से handle किया जा रहा है या किया जाना चाह रहा है. तो marigold it could get a chance to airlift when in 2019, when about 11,444 kg of marigold was taken to Dubai for largest floral carpet, which was created there as a gesture to show that flowers for tolerance. Then coming to the second important, or I would say they keep on changing their position. Marigold and jasmines, they are equally important. This is another important crop that is grown under open field conditions and extensively used. It is in our tradition throughout the South India. They are being used for making gajaras and venis. And in North India, we have a lot of craze for this crop since we are not able to grow it here. So whenever some wedding happens here or some decoration is there and we want to do something extraordinary, so we ask our South India counterpart, or we ask our florists to get the jamalas of these jasmines here, because these are the flowers which we are not able to grow. And of course, it has got a price position in the whole of the loose flower category also, because this is something which is demanded in the countries also, like it is being exported to Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and the Middle East. And of course, we are exporting a lot of jasmine to the United States also. So generally, Jasminum grandiflorum and Jasminum sambac are the two species which are, and of course, the auriculatum one, which is being used commercially. And this is how we go for harvesting of these buds. Recurrent harvesting is to be done. And finally, they are to be converted into these strings. And this is how these are either being sold in the local market or they are being sent to the foreign countries. So of course, if we talk about the grading in the loose flowers, so it's about the jasmine ki baat karenge, to we can grade according to the corolla tube length, bud size, shape, and of course the freshness. As far as packing is concerned, so a lot of research it was carried out, since it was something that was demanded in the international market. So we carried a lot of research, and different packaging types they have been evolved over the time. And this was under an ICR NIAP sponsored project, that technology was developed for the transportation of these jasmines, and it was patented also. It was in collaboration with the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, the Department of Floriculture. They worked on this technology under NIAP project, and export packaging technology was developed, where fresh flowers, they were when converted into strings, and these strings they were treated with the boric acid 4%, and different packaging material, as we could see earlier also, they are airlifted to the Dubai market. And of course, the cool chambers, they were used for throughout the storage and throughout the transportation of the things. And Dubai, it's very amazing that within 24 hours of the harvest, the material it reaches to the Dubai in the finished form, and it takes approximately 2 days to reach up to the USA market. Then coming to the chrysanthemum, Guldadi, very important loose flower crop, and it is being cultivated on huge areas throughout the country. And if we talk about our hill states, so this is also our farmers like to grow this crop, chrysanthemum, and the white color varieties, they are the most prevalent one which are being used for the loose flowers. And the flowers, they are harvested, of course, at the fully opened stage, and the flowers, they can be treated with the aluminum sulfate. And as far as the packaging is concerned, again, bamboo basket with are either lined with the what do we call it, newspaper, or the polyethylene bags, we can go for the packaging. And as far as storage is concerned, it can be stored at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius for 5 days. So this was also one of the storage study that was conducted by us here in the department. So it was both storage study as well as the effect of pre-harvest spray. So here also the buds, when they were 15 millimeter in diameter, they were sprayed with PA at different concentrations, as you can see. And comparatively very high difference in the shelf life of flowers. We could see the varieties were Solan, Shringar, and Surf we used for the experimentation, and it was seen that the packaging mess amongst the packaging materials, when these cardboard boxes, these were lined with polyethylene, treated flowers can be stored up to 5 days under co-store without any loss in their post-harvest life, and the post-harvest life of as long as 2 to 3 degrees we could get there. And as far as packaging is concerned, again, I would say that cardboard boxes lined with the polyethylene, it recorded the maximum shelf life in both the cultivars, as well as the freshness index, which is most important in case of our loose flowers. So as far as in chrysanthemum also, we also the slide you can see, these are our own developed varieties, some of the varieties which have been developed here in the department, and we were testing their suitability for making different value-added products. So we have tried to prepare different garlands out of these, and we stored these garlands at 4 degrees Celsius. So we can see that they can be stored under refrigerated up to 2 to 7 days. Different garlands of different genotypes that have been developed here. And these are the special garlands where we have tried to incorporate more than 2 genotypes. You can see the simple garlands, and these are the specialized ones. And here also we assess the storage life. So by mixing the 2 type of flowers, of course, the storage life was decreased, but a बहुत कम डिक्रीज उसके अंदर देखा गया. So similar type of studies we have carried out for the flower arrangements also. And as far as the cost analysis is concerned, so we could see that when we have mixed type of garlands we have used, so the BC ratio was as high as 10.37:1. So coming to the tuberose, another very important crop. It occupies a very selective and special position among the ornamentals, as it is being used in the floral ornaments, again for gajras, veni, bouquets, and it's an important cut flower as well. But हम यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा loose flower के ऊपर ही concentrate करेंगे, and it is being used for making gajras and very loose florets. They are plucked during early morning hours. And as far as packaging and transport is concerned, so here also is the muslin cloth bag or the gunny bags. They are used for packing and transportation of these flowers. Then another important flower is Chrysanthemum. So this is something जो कि uniqueness add कर रहा है आपके गजरास और वेनीस के अंदर. They are small perennial shrubs, and the flowers, 2 flowers which diagonally open together, they are plucked, and this plucking of the flowers in 20 days. And again, the type of what do we call it, harvesting procedure, it remains to be the same for almost all the floral crops. When we harvest them for the loose flower, that will have to go early in the morning, and of course immediately after harvesting these flowers, they are to be taken to the cooler place, or the cloth bags or the polyethylene bags. They are used for the transportation of these flowers to the local market. And of course, baskets, bamboo basket, it's going to be one of the best alternative. It is helping the whole of the lot to remain fresh for a longer duration. And here also soaking of flowers in the boric acid or aluminum sulfate can be recommended for increasing the shelf life. So we want to give these flowers as a gift. So many things, they are available on the online market channels also. So if you want to order some flowers from the online, so you'll be getting in good boxes, that is CFC boxes or thermocol boxes. They are used by these vendors to supply the things to your place. And this is one of the very priced flower, lotus. And one of the very beauty of the plant is that it is being cultivated from Kashmir to the Kanyakumari. And very frequently used, and this is how the flower buds, they are harvested, tied into the bunches, and packaging, you can see that generally they are harvested in crates, and finally it is being sold outside temples generally, or it is being used in garlands. One of the very important loose flower is hibiscus, having very short our shelf life, but highly priced because it is offered to our deity, the Kali Mata, and uh, since the shelf life is few hours only, so here the demand in the market is too much, production is too much, and you can see the value added products, how the open flowers, they can be converted into different floral ornaments, or when we harvest the things in the bud stage. Though hibiscus can be used both as open flower as well as in the bud stage, the strings, it can be converted into strings. Another important crop is rose, being commercially grown, a traditional crop with us. So here also, if they are harvested, so post harvest handling, again I would say that as far as packaging is concerned, so not much work has been done on the marketing, and it is being packaged in the cloth bags and send it like this. So this is one of the photograph of Himachal Pradesh Khan Farms. It is at Una. He has been growing, he has rather started to grow these floriculture crops. Otherwise, he has been growing vegetables under hydroponics. So very recently, he has started growing annual chrysanthemum, marigolds. And he's saying, according to him, lotus is one of the very prized flowers. So he has started doing this lotus also under this hydroponic system of cultivation. But he has also the same concern that as far as packaging is concerned, we do not have any standards for the packaging of these loose flowers. Then comes the blanket flower. This is Yaladia, and giving extra look to the garland. You can see with the yellow flowers, yellow roses, the garland has been adorned. So garlands generally, if we make with a single type of flower, they do not give us that much look and that much prices as we can do with the value addition of these flowers. Then I would say very small type of or insignificant type, but of course I cannot say non-significant because they are also being utilized for offering to the gods, like Taberni montana. This is also an important loose flower crop, although not being cultivated on the huge area. Then spider lily garlands, they are also highly valuable and available in the market. So this was something about the loose flowers. I did not go much into the byproducts that will be getting out of these. Almost all the loose flowers, particularly the scented ones, they can be utilized for the essential oil extraction. They are being used in the medicinal medicines. Lot of these flowers, they are being used in the cosmetic industry today. But since my topic was on post-harvest handling of the loose flowers only, so I restricted myself here only. So if we talk about the value addition in the loose flowers, so kuch value addition ki baat I have already talked to you, but flower tinting is something which is something different, where especially you can see here in the tuberose. If we can do this tinting on the tuberose, then the extraordinary ordinary colors we can get here, right? And the tinting, it can be done in chrysanthemum, in roses, and these are some of the we can see latest trends in the use of loose flowers. You see the bridal wearings, the different type of the caps, the chadars they are wearing, the whole of this choti is covered with the flowers. This is the recent trend which is there in the market. And the floral chadar, it has become very common these days. So bridal entry, when the bride enters into the marriage, so this umbrella, which is generally made of flowers. So this is something new, which new things which is there in the market with the loose flowers, that instead of simply going for the decorative products like garlands and all. So the left side we can see the rose garlands where whole of the roses were used, but towards the right side the garlands, they are so beautifully made with the petals. some of the innovations in case of the loose flowers, if we can see. And these are the Gomphrena garlands, very important loose flower crop. And these colored garlands, these colorful garlands, we have prepared here in our laboratory only, these colored garlands and other products that we can see here. So these are some other products where the value of these loose flowers lies, and a lot of loose flowers being marketed. So this is in our tradition, wearing gajras and berries on the hair. And of course, brooches for hair and for the decorating of the hair we can use. And of course, I would like to conclude by saying that although we say that loose flower segment of the floriculture is very important, our traditional floriculture is quite having a higher edge as compared to the ones which we are exporting, but still lot needs to be done on the production technology as well as on the post-harvest handling, because huge lots they are being wasted either at the farmer's field or at the retailers' prices or in the floral markets, which are highly unorganized. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam. Dr. Pooja Sharma, Madam, for very nicely presenting your this presentation about this post-harvest management of loose flowers. Though it was very exhausting and with detail, and all the loose flowers you have covered in your lecture. So naturally, it was a very wonderful and very outstanding lecture, and practical aspects also you have shown, and whatever research work conducted at your department level through the MSc or PhD students, that have been also highlighted to the audience. So I hope this lecture and this experience will be very much helpful, and others to the audience and participants who joined this program for handling these loose flowers, because and loose flowers markets are very nearer to the from farmers to the consumers. So we must know the basic things to handle the flowers. So thank you so much, Madam Dr. Pooja Sharma, for joining and presenting your this presentation. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Dr. Babita Singh. She is going to deliver a lecture on post-harvest handling of cut flowers and cut greens, because this is a very important aspect, segment of this in floriculture industry. And because cut flowers generally we export to the international market also, and various locations in the country this flowers is growing, and our farmers are they are not very much acquainted about the post-harvest handling. So this coming lecture will be delivered by Dr. Babita Singh. So just I introduce her. Dr. Babita, madam, you are here?
Yes, I am there, sir.
Okay, thank you. Madam Babita Singh is associated with the IRI Division of Floriculture and Landscaping, New Delhi, for the last 10 years, and is closely associated with the floriculture. She did her MSc and PhD from G.V. Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Pantnagar, Udham Singh Nagar, Uttarakhand. She has conducted research work mainly in post-harvest handling and value addition in flower crops, landscaping and turf grass management, and production technology of flower crops. She is also associated with the DUS project on Bougainvillea, funded by Ministry of Agriculture, PPVFRA. She has developed technologies like salt tolerance and sand tolerance of turf grasses, standardization of weed management and turf grasses, standardization of cut foliages and drying techniques of flowers and greens, and extraction of natural colors from ornamental crops, and preparation of value-added products involved in teaching and PG courses for imparting academic erudition. She has published so many papers like research papers, 25 research papers, edited books, extension bulletins, various chapters in books, popular articles, more than 60, and e-articles, standing manuals, and also presented national and international conferences. And she is life member of the Society of Ornamental Horticulture, Indian Book Society, and Indian Society of Agriculture Sciences, etc. So this lecture, I think, very much is eye-opening for all of us. So, Madam Dr. Babita Singh, I heartily welcome you for accepting our request and joining this webinar as a key resource person. And so on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the Banda University of Agriculture Technology, I heartily welcome you to join virtually. So now I request you please share your presentation and present your presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, my slides are visible
Yes, yes.
and audible also, sir.
Yes, you are audible. Just slide show में लगा लीजिए मैडम इसको.
Very good afternoon to all the participants as well as the speakers of this 2 days national workshop of the post-harvest management and value addition of ornamental. And I would like to thank Banda University of Agriculture and Technology, Department of Floriculture, for allotted me this topic as a keynote speaker for this workshop. So without wasting much of time, I would like to start my presentation on post-harvest handling and post-harvest handling of cut flowers and cut greens.
मैडम इसको मैडम डॉक्टर बबीता प्लीज आप इसको स्लाइड शो पर कर दीजिए मैडम.
Sir,
स्लाइड इज नॉट स्लाइड शो. सो होल स्क्रीन में आ जाएगा.
Sir, I have already shared the screen slide.
Okay, but sides में ना left side your different slides is showing.
एक second.
Now it is okay. Now it's okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So, as we all know that the floriculture is gaining the importance throughout the world. Considered as one of the country's sunrise industry, both as a cut flower as well as the loose flowers. So if we talk about the total area under the floriculture, as per the data of the NHB 2019-20 is around 305,000 hectares with a production of 762,000 tons of the cut flowers. And if we talk about the cut foliages, so as per the recent data of the Holland indicated that 25 to 30% of the bouquet is now consisting of the cut foliage as compared to the 5% 10 years ago. So what is the waste life? Waste life is the period during which a cut flower or a cut foliage is retained its appearance or the aesthetic beauty of the particular flower. And the waste life of cut flower is mostly attract an economic component of the cut flower. Waste life is particularly true with the cut flower given the global nature of the flower industry, as well as to maintain the lengthy handling and the transportation time. So now the question is, the cut flower deteriorates as time passes from harvesting. So how we can minimize or to deteriorate the cut flower after harvesting, the shelf life or waste life, how to increase, and how we long a cut flower will sustain life. So the ultimate reason for this deterioration of the waste life of the flower is the respiration rate. So the next question is to how we can reduce the respiration rate. So if we're reducing the respiration rate from harvesting to the post-harvest handling of the flower, we have to maintain the cool chain management. So it is the essential component of the post-harvest handling of the flowers. As earlier, two speakers, Dr. Shalini Jhaji madam and Dr. Pooja Sharma ma'am already explained about the cut flower waste life deterioration. So I will not talk in detail about the physiology of the particular cut flower post-harvest life. These are some of the top 10 cut flower at Asmir market like rose, chrysanthemum spray, tulips, liliums, gerbera, cymbidium freesia, chrysanthemum standard type, anthurium and alstroemeria. Cut flowers, what we For what kind of flower we can call it as cut flower. Cut flowers are the flower which have with stem, and sometimes we can take leaves also that have been cut from the plant bearing, and they are basically used for the vase displays, wreath, and the garland decoration. These are some of the important cut flowers like rose, carnation, zerbera, anthurium, chrysanthemum, and gladiolus. Likewise, nowadays, cut foliage are also equally important and add different hues in the.
Excuse me, Madam Dr. Babita.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, your slide is not coming. Only one slide is showing. Okay. Yeah, now. Okay.
Sir, visible?
Second importance of cut foliage. Now it is showing.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So, like cut flowers, cut foliage are equally important nowadays because they add different hues in the different arrangement of flowers like bouquets, wreaths, garland, which would otherwise look dull. So, the different advantages of the cut foliage, like as compared to the cut flowers, they are year-round production and demand of the particular crop compared to the cut flower which are seasonal. There is no restricted limit of storage, as well as their investment cost is low and they are having a longer shelf life. Some of the desirable characteristics of the cut foliage, like they have longer keeping quality, attractive colors, shape, texture, and the stem length. They are free from the pests and diseases. It should be freedom from the external damage, as well as ability to withstand the transport and handling condition, and also the good representation. Nowadays, foliage are used as a filler in a bouquet or different flower arrangement or the tabletop arrangements. So the ideal filler should have the following characteristics, like they are provide the bulk and ensure value of the money. Should have uniform, tied, and well-presented look, good stem length, well-maintained color and shape, as well as the freshness, and vase life should be enhanced by 5 days as needed in the corporate sector. These are some of the important cut foliages like Alpinia, Asparagus, Araucaria, Cycas, Dracaena, and Philodendron. Now, what is the need of the post-harvest handling for the cut flowers and cut greens? As already Shalini madam explained, as they are very much perishable in nature, and the losses due to the wilting, crushing, or brushing, as well as the quality, like the senescence, leaf yellowing, abscission, and the scattering of flower, they are needed to be considered to overcome.
Madam Babita,
Please, sir.
like slides is not moving actually. Actually, what you are saying, but it I think not relevant to slides. What I am.
Sir, इधर से तो move हो रहा है slide. Sir, now moving.
But here only in my computer, importance of cut foliage slide is showing.
Sir, दोबारा share.
And audience also means typing question. Slides is not moving.
Sir, shall I share again?
Here need of post, now the slide is need of post harvest handling, perishable losses. This is showing this time.
Okay, sir, मेरे screen पे भी यही है.
Okay.
Now
now you are telling about this na, need of post harvest handling.
जी. अब next sir slide factors affecting post harvest life, sir ये show हो रहा है?
नहीं show रहा, अभी नहीं हो रहा है. I think something net problem.
I think
because some of participants also raised this question.
Sir, मैं again share करूं?
एक बार.
ठीक है sir.
And now, okay, factors affecting post-harvest life of cut flower is showing.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, madam, continue.
So, what are the factors which affect the post-harvest life of the cut flower as well as the cut greens? So, this is a repetition again. Madam Shalini already told about the pre-harvest, harvest, and the post-harvest factors of the flowers. So first one is the pre-harvest factors. In this, the production factors like genetic factor, environmental factor, and management factor are there. So in case of genetic factor, the plants or the cut flowers, particular flowers having their own genetic makeup. So like Bacasa rose has increased life and possess ability to close their stomata open, cutting than the golden wave rose. So this is the impact of the genetic inheritance. Likewise, the environmental factors, light, temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide concentration, and ethylene. They are also equally important to affect the post-harvest life of the flowers. Likewise, management factors, fertilization, use of NPK or other nutrients, as well as the irrigation, use of agrochemicals like pesticide, and the use of growth regulator retardant like GA3, LR, MH, and PBZ. They are equally important in the post-harvest handling of the flowers, as well as the crop hygiene. If we concern the decaying plant residue, dead wood, and the decaying plant material are important or to infect the causing the post-harvest decay. Pests and diseases also enhance the contamination as well as the microbial infection, which will lead to the reduction in the space life of the flowers. Second one is the harvest factor, like stage of harvest, time of harvest, and the mode of harvest. So the flowers are harvested at advanced stage for the longer distance transport, and for the local market, we can harvest the flower for the mature stage. And flower remain in turgid condition for a long time if harvested at the proper stage for the development. So keep in mind, flowers should be in the turgid stage. These are some of the different stages for the important cut flowers, like red rose, yellow cultivars, as well as the white cultivars. Like for carnation, standard cultivars, they are at half open flowers, spray cultivars to fully open flowers. Like for chrysanthemum, gladulus, they are different stage of harvest. These are some of the pictures which shows the different stages of the flowers for harvesting. Like for rose, the tight bud stage. For carnation, it is a paintbrush stage. In case of gladulus, the tight but floret should show the color. Anthurium, fully development of spathe and spagdus. And in case of gerbera, the disc floret is fully open. At this stage, we can harvest these commercial cut flowers. Now, time of harvest, we can harvest the flowers in the morning hours, so they will maintain the better turgidity. And the mode of harvest, we can use the sharp tool for the harvesting purpose of the flowers, and the angle should be slant, so the surface area will be more, so plant absorb more nutrient as well as the water at the time of they are put in a waste solution. And they should be avoided by the crushing. So now the post-harvest factor, like the pre-harvest factor, post-harvest factors like temperature, high temperature, low temperature, light, which will affect the, in terms of yellowing leaves, if the light is low or if the light is high, so the scorching will be happen. And relative humidity is equally important, which is, and in case of high humidity, transpiration loss is less, and in case of storage, relative humidity is equally important to maintain the flower turgidity. Water quality, like we can use the clean bucket, as well as the salt concentration in the water is not so high. Hard water versus soft water is equally important for taking in account at the time of preparation of the waste solution. And the pH of the water of the waste solution should not be more than 4 or 4.5. So for this, we can add some acidifiers for the maintenance of the acidic solution of the waste solution. Like ethylene, as we all know that the ethylene is a ripening hormone. So at the time of harvest or the pre-harvest and the post-harvest, ethylene will affect the shelf life or the waste life of the flowers. There is some flowers like they are very much sensitive to the ethylene, like Alstroemeria, carnation, lilies, freesia, orchid, petunia, and snapdragon. And slightly less sensitive for the flowers, like for ethylene is anthurium, gerberas, and tulips. So for prevention of the ethylene damage, we can use preservatives like SPS, silver thiosulfate, ABG, AO, etc. for retard the ethylene biosynthesis. Use of proper concentration of the floral preservatives components as well as the air circulation of the particular room area is equally important as the air movement, pre-cool products, and avoid the heat buildup. So air circulation is also very important. Diseases as pest. The flower which we have already harvested free from the diseases and pests which will lead to the ethylene synthesis as well as the development of the fungus. Causes of the waste life decline during the post-harvest. So first one is the vascular blockage. As the development of the air emboli and the microorganism in the cutted flowers, and the during harvesting, the brushing and crushing will lead to the wilting of the flowers, as well as the imbalance or the inadequate concentration of the carbohydrate. Respiration and ethylene cause the decline in the waste life. So to overcome the vascular blockage, we can recut the stem under the water, acidify the water, use warm water for cutting, and we can use some detergent dip for the removal of the air emboli or the blockage of, or to control the vascular blockage. Now come to the base.
Madam Bhavita, once again I interrupt you.
सर नहीं मूव हो रहा है सर स्लाइड फिर से
आपका your slide is this factor affecting post harvest live cut flower, still it is showing.
I think ma'am there would be some network problem that cause this type of issue.
So many participants are also raising this problem.
सर मैं अब सर मेरे पे तो मूव कर रहा है अब यहाँ पे
अब
सर
आपका वाटर क्वालिटी आया है नेक्स्ट स्लाइड वाटर
Because you are
क्वालिटी
slide.
ethylene.
ओके
Now
सर
it is very sensitive and relative and sensitive flowers they are showing.
सर नाउ इट्स शोइंग
Now the slide is showing water quality, ethylene, premature senescence and fading and wilting. This type of slides is showing.
preventing ethylene damage sir in my computer next slide preventing ethylene damage
No, no, ma'am.
No. Here is showing and one table is there, very sensitive flowers column and relatively insensitive flowers. Floral preservatives, next slides. That's why actually then vascular blockage.
okay sir
I
I
think
think
there
some
would be
problem.
some network issues.
okay sir now
Now
waste
pre-cooling, now ways to improve post-harvest quality of cut flower sowing. Hello.
ओके सर मैं ऐसे मूव करती हूँ सर वो वैसे शायद मूव नहीं हो रहा है मैं कर्सर से मूव कर रही हूँ तो ये मूव कर रहा है
अच्छा
ठीक है सर
ठीक okay.
नाउ कमिंग टू द ways to improve the post harvest quality of the cut flowers. So first one is the slide is visible. Pre cooling. Tomar sir slide
visible pre-cooling. Yes, pre-cooling is visible.
Okay, so the first step in the post-harvest handling of the flowers is the pre-cooling. Pre-cooling is the process in which we can remove the field heat just after harvesting of the flower. Pre-cooling of the flower can be done by forced air cooling or by cold water to remove the field heat. Pre-cooling is basically done to reduce the respiration, breakdown of the nutritional and other stored material in the stem, leaf, and the petals. This table shows the pre-cooling temperature for some of the cut flowers like Anthurium, Alstroemeria, Gladiolus, Rose, Carnation, and Zerbera. After pre-cooling, there is requirement of quality control and the grading. So cut flowers must be of the optimum or the correct shape, not too tight or open. Flowers should not be affected by the mechanical injury and insect or diseases. The flowers must be clean, uniform size, proper foliage color, no chlorosis and necrosis symptoms. Next, we have to grade the flowers according to the uniform size, color, proper stem length, diameter in the different bunches. This is the picture which shows the grading and bunching the flower storage or the house at packaging house. If we can talk about the grading, there is no such a uniform grading standard made for the flowers. Various countries having different grades. European economic countries have their different grades. American Association of the countries have their different grades. So, according to the American Florist Association, they have graded the flower according to the flower diameter, and the European economic countries, ECC, having the grading of flower according to the stem length. The ECE standard for cut flower with regard to the general appearance, like the extra class, class 1 and class 2. Extra class, the flower which has 3% of the defect, they can consider under the extra class. In case of class 1, 5% of the flower having the slight defect considered under the class 1. And in case of class 2, 10% of the cut flower by number may vary from the requirement of the class. So these are the 3 classes according to the ECE standards. Some of the ECE standard for cut flower with regard to the stem length, and they are having their different codes, 5 to 10 till more than 120, from starting 5 to 120, their code numbers. There are international grade for the rose flowers, like for large flower, stem length should be 60 to 90 centimeter and bud size should be 3 to 4.5 centimeter. And in case of small flower, the stem length should be 40 to 50 centimeter and bud size should be 2 to 2.5 centimeter. In case of chrysanthemum, the ECE standard for grading according to the stem length 20 to 120, there are different grades. The grading for the Zerbera, the stem per box should be 55 to 50 stems, or mini Zerbera 55 stem to 60 stem per box. The US standards for the grading of Dendrobium orchid, they are different grades from A, B, C, D according to the number of flowers and number of buds. Likewise, for the anthuriums also, they are different grades from miniature, small, medium, large and extra according to the width and length of the spathe. US standards for the grading of carnation like blue, red and green, and they are graded according to the minimum flower diameter as well as the minimum length overall. ECE standard for grading of the carnation as per the code 30 to 60, and the length is about 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60 and over 60 centimeter. Likewise, for grading of the gladulus, the international grade for gladulus, they are graded according to the fancy, spatial, standard and utility grade, and they are graded according to the spike length more than 107 to less than 81 and the number of florets per spike 16 to 10. The different treatments which are using for improving the longevity of cut flowers as pre-cooling, conditioning, impregnation, pulsing, bud opening and the holding solution. So what is pulsing? Pulsing is a short-term treatment given to the cut flowers before packaging, storage and the transportation with higher concentration of the sugars. We can also use some germicides and other chemical to reduce the microbial contamination. Then bud opening solution, some of the flower cut at bud stage. So they contain, as compared to the pulsing, low concentration of the sucrose and relative water temperature is around 21 to 27 degree of temperature. They are stored at moderate humidity at high light intensity of 100 to 200 foot candles. This is the table which shows the bud opening solution for different flowers. Now, use of the standard holding solution. Holding solution is the final solution at the time of the requirement of retailer, wholesaler, or the customer level. So in this, the main constituent of the holding solution are the carbohydrates in terms of sucrose, germicide, growth regulators, ethylene inhibitors, mineral salts, and organic acids are the constituents of the holding solution. This table shows the different holding solution for the different commercial cut flowers and the germicides which we can use in case of the along with the holding solution like 8-HQC, 8-HQS, silver nitrate, silver thiosulfate, thiobendazole, and aluminum sulfate. The constituents of the preservatives like sugar, germicides, inorganic salts or mineral salts, growth regulators, anti-ethylene substances, essential oil, and natural botanicals can be used as a preservatives for the enhancement of the shelf life or the base life of the flowers. Like sugar, for the carbohydrate, sugar is the main source of the food for cut flower in terms of sucrose, dextrose, etc. And the germicide, which are useful for controlling the germs or microbes in the waste solution like 8-HQC, 8-HQS, etc. Organic acids, which can add the acidity in the waste solution of the flower, as well as they are also helpful to improve the water uptake like citric acid, benzoic acid, isoascorbic acid, and the tartaric acid. Anti-transparent, they are useful for prevent the water loss from the leaves as well as from the petals like acetyl salicylic acid or the vapor guard 0.5%. Ethylene play the major role for reducing the shelf life or the base life of the flowers. So for reducing the ethylene injury of the flower, we can use silver thiosulfate, AOA, AVG, benzoic, methionine, and the ethionine also. Some of the flowers we can use the growth regulators also as gibberellins and the cytokinins helpful for controlling the useful for enhancing the base life of the flowers. Inorganic salts or mineral salts like ammonium nitrate, potassium nitrate, magnesium sulfate, and iron sulfate also used in the waste solution to enhance the water uptake and reduce the ethylene sensitivity. Some of the commercial preservatives are also available in the market like Chrysol, Floral Life, Rogard, Florissant, and Spring. But they are not the Indian origin. They all are from the foreign, prepared from the foreign countries. Natural botanicals are also nowadays used like essential oil, orange juice, coconut water, and the coconut milk also. Sources like the citrus, lemon, apple fruit extract, Pisidium, pepper betel, and the Jatropha quicker leaf extract can be used as a natural botanicals for enhancement of the base life of the cut flowers. Now come to the packaging. For the proper packaging, the corrugated fiber board boxes are useful because they have the isothermic properties, and there the picture shows the different types of the packaging CFB corrugated fiber board boxes are there for the different kinds of cut flowers. The packaging material which we can use for packaging of the flowers like cellophane papers, butter papers, CFB papers, aluminum laminated foils, and the polyethylene sheet can be used for the packaging or the lining material for the packaging of the flowers. These are some of the packaging material like cellophane, polythene, LDP, corrugated fiber board boxes, and the corrugated fiber papers and aluminum foil can be used as a packaging material. Packaging should be done in the bunches. We can make the bunches into dozens. Pack the material in the boxes made of the corrugated fiber board boxes, and they can be fit well inside in the refrigerated trucks. They are having the presentable and the shock absorbent properties. They are tolerant to the high humidity and the low temperature. And sleeving we can do to protect the flower by crushing or brushing. So they are also protect the flower as well as create the separate product. Nowadays, modified atmospheric packaging is also popular. It is a kind of packaging in which the polymeric film packaging is used, which is useful to reduce the oxygen level and enhance the carbon dioxide level within the packaging atmosphere. Inside this modified atmospheric packaging, the respiration of the flower create a modified atmosphere for reducing the oxygen and elevate the carbon dioxide, so which will enhance or extend the storage period of the flowers. Thus, some of the guidelines for the packaging house, like area of the packaging house should be around 300 meters square per hectare and should be proper temperature control. Equipped with a well-maintained or the grading tables. Grading table marked with the desired stem length to enable accurate size of the grading. Packaging boxes with vents on either side is used. The minimum vent area should be 5% of the total box area. Dimension of the flower boxes for different flowers, different dimension of the boxes are there. Like for carnation, length, breadth and the height of the box is 140 into 20. Likewise for chrysanthemum, gladiolus and roses, there are different dimensions of flower boxes are available in the market. Poto is an innovative packaging of the cut flower. Nowadays, it is very popular. We can transport the flower through poto, in which we can use the water. So flowers are transported nowadays in a poto also. Poto is a material or a medium is filled with the absorbent medium which will retain the water. So it can be sucked the water by the stem of the cut flower, which will come in contact with the medium. Now the next stage of the post-harvest handling to storage of the cut flowers. Storage is very much required if to facilitate the adjustment of the flower to the market demand and to extend the sale period for high value flower crops. There are basically different 4 or 5 kinds of storage methods which we can use for storing the flowers, like wet storage, dry storage, controlled atmospheric storage, low pressure storage, and the modified atmospheric storage. In case of wet storage, the flower are stored with their basic portion. Basal portion is dipped in a water or a preservative solution at 3 to 4 degrees centigrade of temperature for a very short period of time. In case of dry storage, fresh flowers after harvesting, grading and packaging, they are stored in a dry storage. Prior to storage, flowers are treated with the fungicide and they can be pulsed with the floral preservatives for to maintain the shelf life or the waste life of the flowers. Likewise, controlled atmospheric storage, it is a kind of storage in which the flowers are preserved in a gas-tight cool chambers which are equipped with a cooling system, in which the higher level of carbon dioxide concentration around 4% and the lower level of oxygen to reduce the respiration and the production of the ethylene. Next is the low pressure storage. Low pressure storage or the hypobaric storage is a kind of storage in which the flowers are stored in a low pressure or low pressure with low temperature. Result from the various experiments have indicated that the low pressure storage of around 40 to 60 mmHg is useful for extending the longevity of the several cut flower by reducing the ethylene concentration. Another storage method is the modified atmospheric storage. It is not so much as precise that the controlled atmospheric storage, in which the flowers are stored in a sealed bag. So the concentration of the oxygen is low and carbon dioxide concentration is high, which will helpful to reduce the ethylene concentration. This is the table which shows the sum of the flower stored in the wet storage period, like roses, gladulus, gerbera, lily, and tuberoses. And this table which shows the dry storage period of the sum of the cut flowers. Temperature range is different for the different cut flowers. Now come to the transportation. Transportation, it depends mainly on the distance to the market. Transport both by air and surface. Ship transport is very much cheapest as compared to the other transport methods. Some of the important points, like gladulus spike should be held vertically as they have the geotropism, so they can be stored or transported in a vehicle in a vertical position. Heavy weight and volume ratio flowers generally sold in a domestic markets. Flowers are generally transported under the ambient condition with proper temperature and relative humidity. For local market, we can use trucks, buses, trains can be used. These are the some of the commercial available floral preservative, which I have already explained earlier. Now, ways to improve the post-harvest quality of the cut greens. So, likewise, cut flowers, we can post-harvest handling of the cut foliage is simple than the post-harvest handling of the cut flower, but the steps are the same, like pre-cooling. They can be pre-cooled to maintain the freshness of the harvested produce, because at the ambient air, foliage quality should be deteriorated. Then go for the grading based on the uniformity and the quality of the final produce. The parameter considered for the grading as size and shape of the produce, texture of the foliage, strength and the straightness and length of the foliage. They are free from the pest and diseases attack, and development and condition of the foliage. Then, like cut flowers, cut foliage also requires conditioning. So the preparation of the plant material prior to its arrangement or before transportation or storage, we can go for the conditioning with the proper solution with demineralized water, acidifiers and the germicide to maintain the turgidity of the flowers. Then packaging is done on the uniformity of the produce, which have a very uniform quality, and the cut foliages are packed in a wet cotton plug at the petiole end, which will increase the waste life of the foliages. Cut foliages can be stored or packed in a waxed corrugated fiberboard boxes or a plastic sleeves. And we can use preservatives also during the storage. They can be stored relatively low temperature than the room temperature, like 17 degree centigrade approximate temperature. We can store the cut foliages. Some of the cut foliages like boxwood, leatherleaf fern, camellia, eucalyptus, and podocarpus also benefit from the floral preservative. So we can use the preservative solution in the time of the storage also. Pulsing can be done with the 10 to 20% of the sugars before packaging and the transportation, which will helpful to extend the shelf life of the cut foliages. These are some of the combinations or the guidelines for cut foliages to limit the bacteria by plugging them up to the stems. Like, always keep in deionized water as fluoride in tap water. Use sodium hypochlorite solution at the rate of 4 ppm or 1% bleach as wetting agent. Use of hormones and the growth regulators such as N6 benzyl adenine at the rate of 10 to 20 ppm. And floral preservative solutions, which will contain 1% sugar and biocide as 200 ppm HQC or HQS, or a Pfizer 20 or 50 ppm AgNO3. And we can use acidifier to maintain the acidity at 4 to 4.5 with the use of 20 ppm citric acid or the aluminum sulfate 10 to 20 ppm. These are the dimensions of the packaging of the fillers or the florist green, and they are graded according to the standard florist green and the filler green. Like cut flowers, cut foliage are also transported in graded according to the florist green and foliages. They can be shipped without refrigeration as they are not as much perishable as cut flowers. And we can use the refrigerated vans also, and the containers we can use for exporting the fillers green with the adequate pre-cooling, which can withstand the transit time up to 2 to 3 weeks. So this is the whole chain of the cold chain, which will maintain the post-harvest life of the cut flowers, like from starting from harvest to the handling at destination. This is the flow chart for the post-harvest handling of the flowers, like from starting from the harvesting, then we go for the pre-cooling, then pulsing, packaging, storage, transport, conditioning, hardening, and then the ultimate holding solution at the time of or at the stage of wholesaler, retailer, or at the consumer level. So thank you so much for the patience, for the peaceful hearing of this presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much, all the participants.
Thank you so much, madam, for very nicely presented this presentation, and all the aspects of regarding this management of cut post-harvest management of cut flowers and cut greens. You have elaborated in detail, and each and every aspect you have touched, and very calmly and very nicely presented by you, sir, madam. And I hope this kind of presentation, will be very much useful for the participants. And every cut flowers, those cut flowers are in very much commercial grade in our country. You have touched each and every aspect about the cut flowers. So no doubt, this was a very marvelous presentation. I'm very much thankful. So thank you so much, Dr. Babita, madam, on behalf of the Banda University for and readily available in a short span of time, and you spare your valuable time and experience. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So dear participants, now we have a last speaker, though we are running very late, around 30-40 minutes. So, but I'm extremely sorry. So being an organizer, I could not manage a time. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I am extremely express my sorry. So we have a next speaker, Mr. Tejas Patil. Patil Sahab, you are here?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Tejas Patil, he is a managing director Avenue 9 Agri Produce, Nasik, Maharashtra. So dear participants, as our Honorable Prime Minister is saying, we should become a job provider in lieu of a job seeker. So, Sir Patil is an excellent example for that. And BSc Horticulture, BSc Agriculture program, ICR introduced one core that is a experiential learning program, that is a ELP. So what is ELP? ELP's main essence is to become a job provider in lieu of a job seeker. So that's why I included one of the speakers, Patil Saab, regarding this, because he is not a government servant. He is giving a service to the public, and number of workers are earning with their bread and butter from his venture. So at Nasik, he has a very 9 acres area where he is growing this Dutch roses, and he is producing roses and this in marketing, exporting. So whatever experience he earned, this is very much marvelous for the participants. It is eye-opening for the participants. So may I request all the participants, please listen carefully and patiently, because he is a very important speaker for us. So last speaker. So Patil Saab, once again I welcome you on behalf of the Vanda University of Agriculture and Technology for accepting our request, invitation through Sachin ji. Because I could not know you personally, but Sachin Brahmankar ji gave your name, and I was searching a person who is very much capable to deliver a lecture on this. So once again, I heartily welcome you, sir. You are very far from, so we are joining, connected with this virtually. And now I request Patil Saab for share your presentation to the audience. Please, sir.
Yes. Thank you, sir. क्या स्क्रीन दिख रहा है सर मेरा?
हाँ, स्क्रीन दिख रहा है सर, स्क्रीन दिख रहा है.
Yes.
You are audible and screen is also visible.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. हाँ, yes.
Yeah. सबको हमारी तरफ से नमस्ते. मैं और मेरी टीम, पूरी टीम पिछले 9 साल से हम रोज कल्टीवेशन कर रहे हैं. हमारे पास करीबन 14 प्रकार की हम वैरायटी यहाँ पे लगाते हैं और हमारा एक्सपोर्ट भी जाता है. पिछले 5 साल से हम एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, पर जैसे ही कोरोना का काल आ गया और लॉकडाउन लग गया, तब से हमारा एक्सपोर्ट अभी बंद है. और फिलहाल एक्सपोर्ट चालू है, पर हेवी फ्रेट की वजह से हमारा भी एक्सपोर्ट बंद है. पर डोमेस्टिक मार्केट भी अच्छा होने से हमें थोड़ा भी अच्छा फायदा हो रहा है. तो मैं यहाँ पे आपको मेरा जो एक्सपीरियंस है पूरे 9 साल का इंडस्ट्री का, वो मैं आपको साझा करने वाला हूँ. तो आप वो मीठा समझ के आप उसको ग्रहण कीजिए. जैसा मुझे टॉपिक दिया गया है, पैकेजिंग, स्टोरेज, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और मार्केटिंग. तो पैकेजिंग में मेनली जो अलग अलग क्राइटेरिया आता है, तो पहले बाकी कंटेंट्स में भी बताया है सब पूरा डिटेल. फिर भी मैं एक बार बता देता हूँ. जैसा कि प्री कूलिंग बहुत ही जरूरी होता है हर हमारे कौन सा भी फ्लावर लेंगे तो उसके लिए. प्री कूलिंग जैसे हार्वेस्टिंग होने के बाद प्री कूलिंग जैसा चालू होता है, तो आगे का जो प्रोसेस रहता है पैकिंग का, उसका जो टाइम रहता है उसमें वो फूल जो है वो सस्टेन रहता है, उसका वाटर कंटेंट मेंटेन रहता है और वो ड्रॉप नहीं होता है. उसकी वजह से उसका जो आगे का लाइफ है एंड यूजर तक जाने का, वो मेंटेन और बरकरार रहता है, उसका क्वालिटी मेंटेन रहता है. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हम जैसे प्री कूलिंग करते हैं, उसमें हम टेम्परेचर 1 से 3 या 4 तक मेंटेन करते हैं. मिनिमम 2 to 3 आवर्स हम प्री कूलिंग वहाँ पे करते हैं. उसके बाद आता है जो दूसरा स्टेप आता है, वो प्री कूलिंग का है. जैसे प्री कूलिंग के बाद में डीलिफिंग का आता है. रोजेस में नीचे का जो पोर्शन है 6 सेंटीमीटर तक का, जो हम वहाँ पे लीफ और उसके थ्रॉन्स जो रहते हैं वो ब्रश से इस मशीन से निकाल देते हैं। और उसके बाद उसकी वजह से जो वर्कर्स रहते हैं आगे जो पैकेजिंग का पूरा प्रोसेस करने वाले हैं, उसको हैंडलिंग में वो रोज पकड़ने में आसानी होती है और आगे का जो पैकिंग है वो इजी हो जाता है। तो उसके बाद हम लेंथ करते हैं, जैसे अलग अलग लेंथ उसमें रोजेस में हम मेंटेन करते हैं 40 सेंटीमीटर, 50, 60, 70, 80 सेंटीमीटर तक यहाँ पे हम उसका सॉर्टिंग करते हैं। फिर आगे ग्रेडिंग होता है ओपनिंग स्टेज के हिसाब से। जो ओपन ज्यादा फुल हो गए हैं उनका अलग पैकिंग होता है, जो उसका 1.5 रिंग, 2 रिंग, 3 रिंग ऐसे अलग अलग सॉर्टिंग करके वैसे पैकिंग होता है। जब हम एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं तो 1.5 रिंग ओपन हमें चाहिए, क्योंकि जाने के लिए ही 7 से 8 दिन लगते हैं आउट ऑफ इंडिया। तो उसके लिए ओपनिंग स्टेज ये 1.5 एंड 2 रिंग तक चाहिए, और लोकल के लिए वही 2.5 अप टू 3 रिंग ओपन चाहिए, क्योंकि लोकल में फुल जल्दी डेस्टिनेशन तक पहुंचता है, तो वहां पे हमें ओपन फुल ज्यादा लगता है। नेक्स्ट, जैसा मैंने बताया कि लेंथ हम यहाँ पे करते हैं 40 सेंटीमीटर, 50, 60, 70। तो ये है स्लेट हमने बनाई है, उसके हम रख के वहां पे वो ग्रेडिंग करते हैं। नेक्स्ट पार्ट आता है पैकिंग का। तो पैकिंग में डोमेस्टिक के लिए 20 फ्लावर्स जनरली यूज होता है। एक्सपोर्ट के लिए डिपेंड अपॉन कंट्रीज है, कुछ कंट्रीज को 10 स्टेम का बंच लगता है, कुछ को 8 का लगता है, और किसी को 12 का लगता है। तो उस हिसाब से हम पैकेजिंग यहाँ पे करते हैं। रोजेस में मेनली जो सेंसिटिव पार्ट होता है इसका बर्ड्स होता है। जो बर्ड्स है पैकेजिंग करते वक्त बर्ड्स को यहाँ पे हाथ नहीं लगना चाहिए, क्योंकि जितना ज्यादा यहाँ पे हम ह्यूमन टच रहेगा या हैंडलिंग में डैमेजेस या इनको टच रहेगा, तो ये आगे चल के यहाँ पे स्पॉट बन जाते हैं, यहाँ पे बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन हो जाता है, और ज्यादा अपन स्टोरेज करेंगे या ट्रांसपोर्ट में ये खराब हो जाते हैं। तो पैकेजिंग करते वक्त हमें यहाँ पे ध्यान रखना है कि बर्ड्स के ऊपर यहाँ पे हाथ ना लगे। केयरफुली पैकिंग हमारी ये तैयार हो जाती है, जो बंच तैयार हो जाता है। इसमें हम ये कोरोगेटेड बॉक्स का रैपर यूज करते हैं, जिसके वजह से ये बंच तैयार हो जाता है और ट्रांसपोर्ट में ये फुल डैमेज नहीं होते हैं। उसके बाद यहाँ पे कटिंग करते हैं, क्योंकि जो स्टेम्स रहते हैं सब इवन रहते हैं, ऑड इवन स्टेम रहते हैं, तो एक सरीका उसमें काटना पड़ता है, क्योंकि हम जब इस क्रेट में यहाँ पे रखते हैं तो अगर इवन सबको काटते हैं तो हर स्टेम को पानी मिलता है। तो इसलिए यहाँ पे रख के वो स्टेम हमें काटना पड़ता है। काटने के बाद यहाँ पे जो कटिंग होता है तो ये कट एकदम शार्प होना चाहिए, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ पे जो ब्लॉकेज क्रिएट ना हो, हर स्टेम पानी अपना सोख सके है, तो इसलिए ये क्वालिटी बरकरार रहती है। उसके बाद ऐसे क्रेट्स में हम यहाँ पे स्टोरेज करते हैं, उसको रखते हैं। इस क्रेट में अराउंड 3 to 4 इंच पानी डालते हैं, फिर यहाँ पे हम इसको कोल्ड स्टोरेज में रखते हैं। अभी आगे देखते हैं स्टोरेज में क्या क्या देखने वाले हैं। जैसे स्टोरेज में रखते वक्त हम 3 से 4 इंच पानी यहाँ पे रखते हैं, और उसके लिए फ्रेश पानी, क्लीन वाटर वहाँ पे यूज करते हैं, क्योंकि कुछ स्टोरेज में बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन ना हो प्लांट्स को, इसका हमें ख्याल रखना है। और जो क्रेट्स है वो भी क्लीन और मेंटेन वहाँ पे रखना चाहिए, क्योंकि बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन बहुत जल्दी फूलों को हो जाता है, और कोल्ड स्टोरेज में बंद होने से हवा अंदर ही अंदर रहती है, तो बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन होने के ज्यादा चांसेस बढ़ जाते हैं। तो कोल्ड स्टोरेज में हमें भी क्लीननेस रखना है, फ्यूमिगेशन रेगुलरली करते रहना है, क्योंकि अगर फ्यूमिगेशन प्रॉपरली नहीं होता है तो बोथराइटिस करके जो बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन है वो हमें हमारे फ्लावर्स को बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन करके खराब कर सकता है, और हमारी फूलों की क्वालिटी जो हमने बनाई है वो आगे तक मेंटेन नहीं हो पाएगी, तो एंड यूजर तक जाते जाते ये फ्लावर्स खराब हो सकते हैं। तो तो इसलिए रेगुलरली कोल्ड रूम क्लीन करना है, फ्यूमिगेट करना है। यहाँ पे कोल्ड रूम आप देख रहे हैं कि जो स्टैंड बनाए हैं वो पूरा एयर रोटेशन होने के लिए पूरा अच्छे है। तो उसमें जो फैन से ठंडी हवा निकलती है वो पूरा एरिया में, कोल्ड रूम के एरिया में पूरा रोटेट होना चाहिए। इसलिए हम जब स्टोरेज करते हैं तो पूरा एयर रोटेट होना होगा, ऐसा हमें रखना चाहिए। बहुत भीड़ करके या गर्दी करके हमें कोल्ड रूम में अपना प्रोडक्ट है रखना नहीं चाहिए। जितना एयर सर्कुलेट होगा उतना टेम्परेचर हर जगह मेंटेन होगा और फ्लावर की क्वालिटी मेंटेन रहेगी। हमारा जो कोल्ड रूम का टेम्परेचर है वो हमें 4 से 6 तक रखना है, जिसकी वजह से हमारे बहुत 6 से ज़्यादा भी टेम्परेचर नहीं जाना चाहिए और 4 से कम भी नहीं होना चाहिए। तो ये टेम्परेचर अगर मेंटेन रहता है तो हम 5 से 6 दिन तक कोल्ड रूम में फ्लावर्स रख सकते हैं। वो इसकी वजह से जो टारगेटेड मार्केट है हमारा, क्योंकि अपने इंडिया में मार्केट अप डाउन बहुत होता रहता है। जैसे हमारे सीजन्स में है, जैसे गणपति सीजन हो गया, मैरिज का सीजन हो गया, वैलेंटाइन हो गया, तो ये टारगेट हमारे जो डेट रहते हैं वो हम अचीव करने के लिए हमारे प्रोडक्ट स्टोर करके और अच्छी दाम में बेच सकते हैं। तो इसलिए हमें स्टोरेज में ये पूरा ख्याल रखना है, तो हमारा प्रोडक्ट ये अच्छा जाएगा मार्केट में। बी केयरफुल अबाउट एयर सर्कुलेट होल रूम। जैसा मैंने बताया कि जो हमारा प्रोडक्ट है वो खुला खुला रखना है, क्योंकि बहुत जगह मैंने देखा है कि एक ही कोल्ड रूम में इतना माल भर देते हैं तो वो एयर सर्कुलेशन नहीं होता है। तो इसी वजह से जो कोने में जो पड़ा रहता है माल वो सड़ जाता है और उसकी वजह से बोथराइटिस क्रिएट होता है और बाकी के अच्छे फूलों को भी वो खराब कर देता है। अभी हमारा ये प्रोडक्ट जैसा हम जब भी डिस्पैच करना चाहेंगे 2 दिन बाद 3 दिन बाद, तो हमारा है हम कोल्ड रूम के बाहर उसको निकालते हैं, तो ये हमारा रेडी डिस्पैच है। ये अच्छा कूलिंग हुआ प्रोडक्ट है। तो अगर ये ट्रांसपोर्ट में 1 दिन भी जाता है तो ये क्वालिटी मेंटेन रखता है, क्योंकि इसको अच्छा कूलिंग मिल गया है 1 दिन का 2 दिन का, तो प्रोडक्ट ट्रांसपोर्ट में खराब नहीं होता है। जो ट्रांसपोर्ट में हैंडलिंग होता है तो उसकी वजह से ये सस्टेन हो जाता है उससे, तो ये अच्छा मेंटेन होता है ट्रांसपोर्ट में। ये भी बॉक्स ऐसा रेडी हो गया है ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए। हर बॉक्स में करीबन 40 बंच के आसपास आते हैं, तो ऐसा हमारा बॉक्स ये रेडी हो जाता है। पर अभी हमारे इंडिया में जैसा हमारा प्रोडक्ट अच्छा है, सब बराबर, पैकिंग भी अच्छा है, पर जैसे ट्रांसपोर्ट में जाता है, हमारे यहाँ से ट्रक में जाता है, बस से जाता है, ट्रेन में जाता है, पर जैसा प्रोडक्ट हम पैक करते हैं यहाँ पे, पर जहाँ हमारे जो वेंडर्स है उनके पास जब प्रोडक्ट जाता है वो इस हालत में जाता है। तो हमारे यहाँ पे ट्रांसपोर्ट का बहुत हमें उसमें सुधार करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारा जो प्रोडक्ट है फार्मर का, वो जो क्वालिटी हम यहाँ पे बनाते हैं, जो हम मेहनत यहाँ पे करते हैं, पर जब वो एंड यूजर तक जाता है तो ये ऐसी हालत में जाता है, मतलब उसका सब क्वालिटी खराब हो जाता है, क्योंकि ट्रांसपोर्ट अच्छा नहीं है। अगर हम ट्रांसपोर्ट अच्छा करते हैं, डेवलप करते हैं, कुछ उसमें इनोवेटिव आइडिया लाते हैं, जैसे कोरोगेटेड बॉक्स की जगह कुछ इकोनॉमिकल, कुछ अलग मटेरियल उसमें यूज करते हैं जो रीयूज हो सके, ऐसा कुछ अगर इनोवेट करते हैं तो उसका फायदा हम जैसे फार्मर्स को मिलेगा, क्योंकि हमारा जो दाम है उसका वो हमारे क्वालिटी के हिसाब से मिलेगा, क्योंकि क्वालिटी मेंटेन रहेगा आखिरी तक, तो क्वालिटी भी, दाम भी वैसा मिलेगा। देखिए, ये ऐसा जो पैक एंडर के पास जाने के बाद आपने पहले देखा होगा कि माल कैसा अच्छा पैक हुआ था, पर अभी जो माल है जो पहुंचा है वो पूरा बुरी हालत में है, उसका क्वालिटी भी डाउन हो गया है, तो इसका रेट भी हमें ऐसा कम मिलता है, डिपेंड, और वो सब ट्रांसपोर्ट की वजह से, ना कि हमारे क्वालिटी की वजह से है। क्वालिटी तो साइड पे बहुत अच्छी है, पर ट्रांसपोर्ट की वजह से क्वालिटी पूरा खराब हो जाता है। देखिए, जब हम पैकिंग से पहले, ये हमारा है क्वालिटी है, पर जब पहुंचता है तो पूरा ट्रांसपोर्ट में डैमेज हो जाता है मटेरियल। जो लाइट फ्लावर्स है, जैसे व्हाइट कलर्स में जो है, लाइट कलर्स में है, वो तो बहुत ही डैमेज हो जाते हैं, तो इसमें हमको रेट नहीं मिल पाता है फार्मर्स को। तो जो इसमें है इनोवेटिव्स कुछ बना रहे हैं, तो उन्होंने इसका ट्रांसपोर्ट का कुछ सॉल्यूशन हमें देना चाहिए। एयर कार्गो में अच्छा फ्लावर जाता है, अच्छी क्वालिटी जाता है, क्योंकि वहाँ में कोल्ड चेन भी मिलती है। पर हर जगह ये फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल नहीं है एयर का, और जो एयर का जो फ्रेट है वो भी हर एक को हर जगह का अलग अलग है। हमारे यहाँ भी है, पर वो इतना कॉस्टली है कि हमें वो परवड़ता नहीं है बाय एयर भेजने के लिए। तो गवर्नमेंट ने खास इस पेरिशेबल चीजों के लिए भी एयर में फ्रेट में कुछ कंसेशन देना चाहिए, तो फायदा डायरेक्टली फार्मर्स को मिलेगा और अच्छी क्वालिटी का माल अच्छे दाम पे बिकेगा। अभी मार्केटिंग में बहुत से अलग अलग तरह के हमारे यहाँ पे मार्केटिंग है। जैसे हम यहाँ पे ऑल ओवर इंडिया माल भेजते हैं, ट्रेन से भेजते हैं, बस से भेजते हैं, और एक्सपोर्ट भी करते हैं। पर मैं डोमेस्टिक की बात यहाँ पे करूँगा कि मार्केटिंग में डोमेस्टिक में क्या होता है कि अगर मुंबई में जो रेट है वही रेट दिल्ली में नहीं रहता है। कभी दिल्ली में अच्छा रहता है तो कभी मुंबई में अच्छा रहता है। तो हमें मार्केटिंग के वक्त ये देखना चाहिए कि कौन से त्योहार में कहाँ पे डिमांड है, तो हम वहाँ पे वो सप्लाई कर सकते हैं। और हमें एक वक्त पे एक जगह सप्लाई ना देते हुए हर जगह अलग अलग में थोड़ा थोड़ा डिस्पैच करना चाहिए, कि हमें जो है रेट का जो एवरेजिंग है वो मिल पाता है। और डोमेस्टिक में वेंडर्स बहुत फार्मर्स को पैसा भी डुबाते हैं, तो वो भी जो रिस्क है वो डिवाइड हो जाता है। अगर हमें कोई डुबाता भी है तो हमारा एक छोटा सा हिस्सा हम नुकसान में जाएंगे। अगर एक वेंडर को ही हम दे देते हैं सब हमारा मटेरियल, तो हमें ज्यादा नुकसान होने के चांसेस रहते हैं। इसलिए हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हमारे पास ज्यादा से ज्यादा वेंडर हो, भले ही रेट थोड़ा कम ज्यादा हो जगह के हिसाब से, वेंडर के हिसाब से, पर एक एवरेज में हमें हो, रिस्क डिवाइड हो जाता है और उसका लॉस भी कम हो जाता है। जैसे हम पैकिंग क्वालिटी मार्केटिंग में मोस्ट ऑफ दी है अपना क्वालिटी। रोजेस में अगर देखा जाए तो उसका बर्ड के ऊपर, उसके स्टेम्स के ऊपर उस दाम रहता है। जितना अच्छा बर्ड्स है, जितना अच्छा उसका कलर है और जितनी अच्छी स्टेम्स है, उसके ऊपर ये रेट रहता है। तो जैसे हम ये क्वालिटी मेंटेन रखेंगे तो अपने मार्केट में अपना नाम होगा, तो अपने आप मार्केटिंग अपना हो जाएगा और लोग अपनी तरफ अपने रिक्वायरमेंट भेजेंगे, तो आप रेट भी वैसा उनको लगा सकते हैं। तो मार्केटिंग का यही फंडा है कि आप क्वालिटी मेंटेन करो, आपको रेट अपने आप खुद मिल जाएगा, तो आप क्वालिटी मेंटेन कीजिए। ये भी हमारा ऐसा क्वालिटी है तो हमें रेट भी वैसा मिलता है मार्केट में। खाली जो ट्रांसपोर्ट का है प्रॉब्लम, वो अगर सॉल्व हो जाता है तो और भी रेट में हमें अच्छा दाम मिल सकता है। ये क्वालिटी हम मेंटेन करते हैं। हमारा एवेन्यू 9 ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनीज का पूरा टीम ये क्वालिटी मेंटेन करने के लिए हम यहाँ पे ट्राई करते हैं और ये पूरे मार्केट में भेजते हैं। हमारा कोल्ड चेन भी हमसे भेजते हैं। अभी एक्सपोर्ट का जो माल है वो पूरा कोल्ड चेन में ही जाता है। लोकल में भी हम जो हमारे नियर है मुंबई, वहाँ पे कोल्ड चेन इस्तेमाल करते हैं। पर हर जगह ये अभी दिल्ली भेजना है तो हमें बाय ट्रेन ही भेजना है पड़ता है, बाय एयर का यहाँ पे फैसिलिटी नहीं है। ओके, थैंक्स टू ऑल।
Thank you, Patel Saab. Thank you so much for means exposed presentation. This is very much lacking in government sector, and you have personally a day-to-day problem, and you have growing in larger scale. So what day-to-day markets problem means this grower is facing, then only grower can tell in a very smarter way. So I am very much thankful for your this nice presentation, the way you have presented whatever problems, because the topic was given to you and you have presented very well and you have prepared very well. So whatever that means this industries and this floriculture ventures, these problems are facing. So I am very much hopeful that our participants will get benefit. And just I would like to know from my side as a student of floriculture. पटेल साहब कौन सी वैरायटी हैं जो ज्यादा इंपोर्ट चल रही हैं आज की डेट में, मार्केट इनका बढ़िया?
सर रिवाइवल एवलांच है, स्वीट एवलांच है, हाँ
एवेला, एवेला व्हाट इज एवेला?
एवलांच,
एवेलांच तो यहाँ एवेलांच तो है।
रिवाइवल है,
रिवाइवल,
जुमेलिया,
जुमेलिया
एंड स्वीट एवलांच,
स्वीट हर्ट,
स्वीट एवलांच,
sweet avalanche.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sweet avalanche. What is the color of sweet avalanche?
It's a light, like a peach avalanche, light pink.
Light pink.
Light
but
pink.
avalanche is a white, na? Avalanche.
Yes, yes. But थोड़ा सा उसमें लाली जैसा कलर रहता है स्वीट एवलांच में, जैसा पीच एवलांच है सेम वैसा पिंक में आता है स्वीट एवलांच।
जी जी। जिस ताजमहल वैरायटी अभी चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है?
वो तो चलता ही है, वो तो
चल रहा है ना।
हाँ हाँ। पहले कैसा रहता था डोमेस्टिक में, ताज वैरायटी चलता था, रेड में जो आता है
जी।
पर अभी डोमेस्टिक में भी लोग अलग अलग कलर्स पसंद करते हैं, तो ये भी अभी पहले कैसा 30-70 का रेशो था, मतलब 70% ताज चलता था, 30% अलग कलर चलते थे। अभी थोड़ा कलर रेशो जो है हमारा बदल रहा है डोमेस्टिक का, अभी 50-50% हो गया है।
जी,
तो
जी।
बाकी कलर से वो 50% रिक्वायरमेंट रहती है, ताज का कम हो गया है। तो क्योंकि कलर्स ज्यादा तो एक्सपोर्ट में ही जाता था, पर अभी डोमेस्टिक में भी रिक्वायरमेंट आ रहा है।
जी।
यस सर।
So thank you, Patel Saab, for nicely explain about this your means whole entrepreneur, what industry, what you are doing. So on behalf of this organizing committee and on behalf of the Banda University of Agriculture Technology and on my personal behalf, I express my sincere thanks to you for accepting our request and very readily available, though you are busy in business. Last week you were busy arranging this in the Valentine's Day making. Yes. I was asking about your biodata. So you were saying, sir, I'm busy this Valentine's Day supply.
Yes,
so my best wishes. Your business will flourish by leaps and bounds in coming days. तो आपका बहुत अच्छे से चले, मेरे हमसे ईश्वर से प्रार्थना है। So all the participants, because now we are concluding on this at this time, at this point of time, this was the last session lecture delivered by Patil Saab. So tomorrow morning at 10:30, and we will join virtually, and Dr. Ritu Jain, Madam, will speak about this. So thank you so much all the participants, including our YC Gupta sir, respected tomorrow's plenary speaker. YC Gupta sir was also joined. I just observed this list of the participants. So thank you so much, sir, Gupta sir, because our technical team did not allow actually as a panelist, so you cannot speak now. Sorry, sir. And Madam Ritu Jain was also in all the key resource persons, as I have gathered information. So all were joined at the time of this inaugural session. When Janki Ram sir and K. Prasad was joined, graced the occasion as a chief guest and guest of honor. So all the key resource persons are deserved for my appreciation and commendation and thanks for joining and spare their valuable time. Though being a government servant, we all are busy, but you people have a spare time for us. So all the seniors, all the participants, and here at the organizing committee, I express thanks to my honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. He always allowed us to organize such type of program, and respected Dean, Dr. S.B. Dovedi, sir, who also spared the whole day with us, though he's having some personal family problem also, but he spared time. And my HOD, Dr. Ajay Kumar Singh ji, sir is also along being with us since morning and guided us how to organize the program successfully. And my students, beloved students, department students, they also helping us since morning. So once again, I thanks to each and everyone and all the senior directors and deans, Christian colleges of this university for joining and grace the occasion, this program. And tomorrow 10:30, at 10:30 again we will join. Thank you so much once again. Sabak khair. Good night. Good night. ठीक है सर.